Chapter 1865. Underground World, Earth Spear Hall. In Guming Diju's room, at the center of the room, Guming Diju was holding a book and reading it with great interest. To Guming Diju, who could directly read minds and know what others were thinking, even knowing the darkness in many people's hearts, reading was a very meaningful thing. This was because Guming could only understand the content of the book through reading. It was not like when he was facing a human, where he could naturally know what the other person was thinking as long as he opened his third eye. Therefore, reading was one of Guming's favorite activities. There was no other activity like reading. Compared to Guming Diju, who was immersed in the world of books, Guming Diju seemed to be entertaining himself. While Guming Diju was reading the book with great interest, Guming Diju's love was lying on the floor of Guming Diju's room. She didn't care whether her clothes were dirty or not. She stared at the cat with fire on its tail in front of her with big, round, beautiful eyes wide open. That was the famous fire cat in the underground world. The fire cats in Earth Spear Hall were all Guming Diju's pets. It could also be said that they were Guming Diju's pets. At this moment, Guming Diju was chatting with the fire cat in front of her to pass time. "Hey, why do you have fire on your tail?" "Meow." The fire cat tilted its head and looked confused. Although this fire cat could not turn into a human like the fire cat Phosphorus, it already had the basic intelligence. It was not just this fire cat. In Earth Spear Hall, Guming Diju's pets all had a certain level of intelligence. Otherwise, why would Guming Diju's love let his pets do all the work in Earth Spear Hall? Therefore, this fire cat could understand Guming Diju's words. Unfortunately, although it could understand, it could not speak. It could not speak. It didn't know how to do that. It could only give the simplest answer. Of course, such an answer was basically, other than Guming Diju, who could directly read its heart, it was unlikely that anyone else would know what it meant, including Guming Diju. "What is meow?" Guming Diju expressed that the two languages did not seem to be from the same country. She tilted her head. His face was filled with doubt. "Will there be fire in your tail if you say meow?" "Meow, meow. Lien Lien is meowing, but there is no fire in her tail." "Meow. I almost forgot that Lien Lien doesn't have a tail. Meow." "Hmm? Meow. Why is it still meow?" Lien Lien started to pout, her face filled with dissatisfaction. "Don't you want to talk to Lien Lien?" "Meow." The flame cat also expressed that it was under a lot of pressure to have such a naive and romantic little sister who didn't know anything. Just like that, the extremely strange conversation between the human and the cat continued in the form of self-entertainment. Other than the man and the cat, the only person present, Guming Diju, did not notice this rather annoying scene at all. It was not that Guming Diju did not care about his sister, but first of all, Guming Diju's attention was completely focused on the book in his hand, so she did not have the spare energy to pay attention to anything else. Secondly, that was also the reason why Guming Diju had fallen in love with her. Guming Diju had sealed his soul and had the ability to control his subconscious. Guming Diju's sense of existence was originally weak, so even if she passed by people's sight, it was possible that she would not be noticed. Because of this, and because Guming Diju's attention was focused on the book in his hand, so even if Guming Diju's voice and the cat's meowing were echoing in the room, Guming Diju did not notice. From various aspects, this was indeed a very strange scene. At least, he directly came to the room with the magic of space transfer. Wu Yan, who had just come out of Alice's room, saw this scene and was speechless for a long time. If one looked carefully, one would notice that there was a lingering trace of joy between Wu Yan's brows. It was the lingering pleasure after he did something inexplicable to Alice under the circumstances of not knowing whether it was punishment or venting his dissatisfaction in his heart. Now, when he saw this strange scene in front of him, the lingering pleasure quickly disappeared, leaving behind only an expression of not knowing whether to laugh or cry. After a while, Guming Diju, who was still bored talking to the flame cat, noticed that there seemed to be another person in the room. She turned her head and looked in the direction of Wu Yan. Then her eyes brightened, and she jumped up happily and cheered out loud. Brother? Brother? No matter how he did not notice the existence of Guming Diju, Guming Diju could not hear Guming Diju's loud voice. Then, Guming Diju raised his head in confusion and looked forward. Then he saw Guming Diju's face was full of excitement, and she rushed to Wu Yin. Suddenly, Guming Diju was stunned. When he found that it was Wu Yin, his eyes also brightened. He put down the book in his hand and stood up with some surprise. Brother. Guming Diju jumped in front of Wu Yin excitedly, looking at Wu Yin with big, sparkling eyes. Her eyes were full of joy. Is it you? Did you come to see Diju? Looking at Guming Diju's strangely happy and cute look, Wu Yin could not help but smile. He reached out his hand and touched Guming Diju's little head. I came to see you guys. Are you happy? Happy. Guming Diju also reached out her hand and hugged Wu Yin's leg like a koala bear, laughing softly. Keeping the look of touching Guming Diju's head, Wu Yin raised his eyes and looked forward. He met Guming Diju's eyes. Looking at Guming Diju's surprised look, he smiled and greeted him. How have you been recently? Listening to this most ordinary greeting, Guming Diju felt touched from the bottom of his heart. It could not be helped. Because of the ability to read minds, Guming Diju knew everything about others. He was hated by almost all humans, demons, and gods. When did he hear such words? Just this simple greeting made Guming Diju very satisfied. It also made Guming Diju feel that meeting Wu Yin was a very lucky thing. I just read books when I have nothing to do and walk around Earth Spirit Hall with Alin and Akong. Guming Diju smiled gently. Also, Diju has not been running around recently. With Diju accompanying me, it is not boring. Is that so? Wu Yin hesitated for a bit before asking. Have you always been like this in Earth Spirit Hall? Guming Diju did not want to hide anything from Wu Yin and nodded seriously. No one would welcome me anywhere else. I don't like to run around. Hearing this, Wu Yin scratched his face and showed a troubled expression. This made Guming Diju curious. What's wrong? No. Wu Yin smiled helplessly. Originally, I wanted to invite you to a banquet on the surface. Who knew that you don't like to run around? Banquet. Guming Diju was stunned. Banquet? Guming Diju looked very interested. Diju saw something called a banquet when Diju went to the surface. It was very fun. Banquets are for fun. Wu Yin patted Guming Diju's head lovingly. How about it? Do you want to go? I want to go, I want to go. Guming Diju shouted without hesitation. Diju wants to go. Diju. Guming Diju frowned and scolded her. You can't be so rude. Sister, let's go to that banquet. Guming Diju looked pitifully at Guming Diju. Diju wants to go, but Guming Diju was in a difficult position. If you really don't want to go, I won't force you. Wu Yin comforted her. As for Diju, if you trust me, how about letting me take care of her? No, it's not that I don't want to go. Guming Diju shook his head and sighed. It's just that, will the people on the surface welcome us? Hearing this, Wu Yin remembered. Previously, the demons in the underground world had brought some trouble to the surface. Even the laziest Ling Ming was busy for a period of time. After that, Ling Ming banned the demons from the underground world from entering the surface. It was no wonder that Guming Diju thought so. Leave this to me. Wu Yin patted his chest. I'll make it clear to Ling Ming. I see. Guming Diju was slightly moved. After seeing Guming Diju's pleading look, he nodded. Wu Yin smiled. Chapter 1866. Fantasy Village, Lost Bamboo Forest. Step by step, Wu Yin walked on the mountain path leading to the Eternal Pavilion. He seemed to be reminiscing about the environment in the Lost Bamboo Forest. He didn't use spatial magic and walked like an ordinary person. His gaze was focused on the area in front of him. Wu Yin took a good look at the brand new house that looked a bit strange. In the courtyard of the house, Ling Xian was holding some herbs and identifying them with a troubled expression. Master, which herb are you looking for? As Yong Lin's disciple, Ling Xian's fighting strength wasn't that great. She wasn't even at the 9th level. She was just hovering around the 8th level. It wasn't that Ling Xian didn't have any talent. Yonglin didn't want Ling Xian to become a disciple with great fighting strength. Instead, she wanted Ling Xian to be her successor in the medical field. It seemed like she wanted Ling Xian to inherit her medical skills. Ling Xian, on the other hand, had been with Yonglin for quite some time now. When it came to herbs, Ling Xian believed that it was almost impossible for her to not recognize them. But every time Ling Xian thought so, Yonglin seemed to be able to see through Ling Xian's mind. She would find some plants that Ling Xian had never seen before and let Ling Xian identify them. Clearly, this time, Ling Xian was stumped by the herbs that Yonglin had found from God knows where. Don't tell me they aren't herbs? It was inevitable that Ling Xian would have such doubts. After all, there was once when Yonglin grabbed a bunch of weeds outside and asked Ling Xian to identify them. Ling Xian studied them for a dozen days, but couldn't figure out that they were just ordinary weeds. It wasn't that Ling Xian was stupid. Yonglin was too smart in her heart. Ling Xian didn't expect Yonglin to trick her by grabbing a bunch of weeds. She mistook them for herbs. Thus, Ling Xian didn't think that they were weeds. She thought they were herbs that looked like weeds. Wu Yin chuckled when he saw Ling Xian struggling with the plant. His laughter attracted Ling Xian's attention. Master Bai? Ling Xian was startled by his words. Then, he quickly stood up. He bowed respectfully to Wu Yin. Lord Bai, good morning. Ling Xian. Wu Yin beckoned to Ling Xian. Are you busy? I'm not in a hurry. I'm just identifying some herbs. Ling Xian replied with some awkwardness. Are you looking for Her Highness? Then I'll go and report to Master. I am indeed here to look for Hui. Wu Yin said strangely. But I'm looking for Hui Yi. Why are you reporting to Yonglin instead? This. Ling Xian hesitated for a moment, feeling a little awkward. Then, he said carefully, Master said that if Lord Bai comes to look for Her Highness, we must report to her first. This Yonglin. Wu Yin was speechless and had no choice but to compromise. There's no other way. Although it's very troublesome, this is the only way. Thank you, Lord Bai. Ling Xian smiled gratefully at Wu Yin and walked into the Forever Pavilion to report to Yonglin. After waiting for about 10 minutes or so, the bored Wu Yin sensed an extremely restrained but strangely powerful and mysterious familiar presence slowly approaching him from within the UCI Pavilion. A few seconds later, the door of the Forever Pavilion opened and Yonglin walked out. She looked at Wu Yin and said with a smile, What? You want to look for trouble in the Forever Pavilion after fighting with the flower demon in the sunflower field? Wu Yin flinched when he heard this. He was surprised by this. You know? I know. Yonglin shook her head. I think I'm not the only one in the fantasy village who knows. Many people should have sensed the aura you leaked when you fought with the flower demon that day. Yonglin subconsciously glanced at Wu Yin. She's a bit surprised by his reaction. That day, when Wu Yin fought with Fengjian Yuxiang, Yonglin sensed his aura and secretly paid attention to it. Although it wasn't something that could be casually mentioned, Yonglin saw the entire battle that day. Naturally, she also saw Wu Yan's combat power. To be honest, Yonglin didn't expect Wu Yan to be able to fight Fengjian Yuxiang to a draw. That's a result that Yonglin might have to risk everything to achieve. Yonglin knew that Wu Yin wasn't strong enough to fight Fengjian Yuxiang to a draw. Wu Yin was barely qualified to fight her, let alone fight Fengjian Yuxiang. Coupled with the fact that she saw Wu Yin using the power of realm manipulation that only Yukari can do, Yatsuki guessed that Wu Yin must have used some sort of method to temporarily increase his power. That's how he achieved such a result. However, no matter what, Wu Yin had the ability to fight Fengjian Yuxiang, Yakumo Yukari, or herself. This was basically confirmed. Yonglin felt that it was necessary to re-examine Wu Yin. That's the ability you got from the system, right? Yonglin looked at Wu Yin with eyes that seemed to be able to see through people's hearts. The method that allows people to temporarily gain power beyond their own and Yakumo Yukari's ability. Wu Yin smiled awkwardly when he saw Yonglin's eyes that looked like she wanted to dissect him. Rather than saying that I got it from the system, it's better to say that I got it from my own blood. Bloodline. Yonglin narrowed her eyes slightly. Vampire's ancestor? You even know that? Wu Yin was puzzled by her reaction. Since you know everything, why are you still asking me? If I could really know everything, I wouldn't have let you have such a relationship with the princess. Yonglin's tone was a little cold. It's just that I've seen a creature of the night, just like you over the eons. I don't know how long ago. Have you seen the ancestor? Wu Yin mused for a bit before he finally said something like that. Have you seen the dragon god? Dragon god? Yonglin didn't expect Wu Yin to ask such a question. She frowned slightly. You mean the dragon god in Fantasy Village? You must be one of the oldest existences in Fantasy Village, right? Wu Yin stared at Yonglin. The dragon god appeared in Fantasy Village for the last time when Bori was building the barrier. If it's you, you must have seen the dragon god, right? Fantasy Village used to be a remote place in the world before it was isolated from the outside world. In other words, Fantasy Village existed before the dragon god appeared for the last time. If Yonglin was already in the Fantasy Village at that time, she should have seen the dragon god who appeared in the Fantasy Village for the last time. However, Yonglin shook her head while Wu Yin was thinking. No, you're wrong. I haven't seen the dragon god. Wu Yin was stunned. Indeed, the princess and I already existed in the Fantasy Village before the Great Barrier was built. Yonglin sighed. But at that time, in order to avoid the people from the moon, the princess exiled the entire Forever Pavilion to the world of Forever. It wasn't until recently that the Forever Pavilion really appeared in Fantasy Village. You know this, so neither the princess nor I have seen the dragon god. I see. Wu Yin nodded with disappointment. Then there's no other way. Why did you suddenly mention the dragon god? Yonglin Yagi asked, in confusion. You're not the kind of person who would miss the gods that are almost forgotten by everyone, right? Well, there are all kinds of reasons. Wu Yin said perfunctorily, then smiled bitterly. By the way, I'm here for Kagaya. Where is she? You're looking for the princess because of the banquet, right? Yonglin glanced at Wu Yin. That crow seems to have gotten the news from somewhere and is spreading it everywhere. The Forever Pavilion also got the news, so you don't have to run around anymore. Just go back and prepare. Paparazzi? Wu Yin was stunned, then pursed his lips. I almost forgot about her. I should have just let her invite her so I don't have to run around. Just like that, the news at a grand banquet was about to be held spread throughout Fantasy Town. The venue of the banquet was Bori Shrine. Chapter 1867. Fantasy Village, Bori Shrine. Today, early in the morning, there were people flying in from afar and landing in front of the newly built Bori Shrine. In fact, although they were called humans, there were only a few real humans among the many existences that came to the Bori Shrine. The rest were all monsters, fairies, spirits, and other races that only existed in fantasy villages. There was only one reason why so many monsters, spirits, and other kinds of existences would fill the open space in front of the Bori Shrine. That is, today a grand banquet will be held in the Bori Shrine. It was precisely because the banquet was held in the Bori Shrine that so many monsters, spirits, and other kinds of existences came. After all, if there's a place in Fantasy Village that is the most famous, it is definitely the Bori Shrine. Although the Bori Shrine is not the only shrine in Fantasy Village, the importance of the Bori Shrine to Fantasy Village is even more important than the various races that live here. Not for other reasons, just because without the Bori Shrine, Fantasy Village would not exist. The Bori Shaman who managed the Fantasy Village was here. The Bori Shaman was also the one who established the Great Barrier and gave birth to the current Fantasy Village. Not to mention, the Bori Shrine also worshipped the highest level god in the Fantasy Village, the Dragon God. Of course now, in Fantasy Village, except for those who have lived for a long time, basically no one knows about the existence of the Dragon God. This was not surprising. The Dragon God had never shown his miracles, unlike the Guardian Arrow Shrine on the Demon Mountain. As long as someone offered faith, the god, there would definitely give back a certain miracle. It made people wonder whether the so-called highest-level god in the Fantasy Village really existed. And this is also one of the phenomena that made the Purple Association doubt whether the Dragon God still exists. No one knows whether the god worshipped exists or not. In addition, the Bori Shrines, which is lazy all day long. They were cold and indifferent to everyone. On the way to the shrine, monsters that were good at attacking humans would appear from time to time. Due to various reasons, very few humans would come to the Bori Shrine to worship. However, this does not affect the popularity of the Bori Shrine in Fantasy Village. Even if the god they worshipped was no longer around, there were only a few worshippers. Magus Bo Lee was the manager of Fantasy Village on the surface. Furthermore, she would come out from time to time to deal with troublesome demons and resolve any anomalies. The most well-known place in Fantasy Village was undoubtedly the Bori Shrine. Therefore, even though the Bori Shrine was not very popular, there were still many monsters and even great monsters who liked to visit the Bori Shrine. Needless to say, the moment they heard that the Bori Shrine was going to hold a banquet, basically all the well-known, unknown, powerful, and not so powerful monsters in the Fantasy Village came here in groups of 2s and 3s, filling the open space in front of the Bori Shrine with people. Standing in the hallway of the Bori Shrine, Ling Ming looked at the noisy area in front of her. There were at least a few hundred demons, and Ling Ming fidgeted with her jet black hair, almost causing the huge red bow to fall off. Is it so difficult to spend a few days leisurely? Well, isn't this good? Marissa stood beside Ling Ming. Unlike the resentful Ling Ming, Marissa appeared to be in high spirits. This banquet is sponsored by the little brother from the Yakumo family. You don't have to pay for it. Furthermore, you can eat and drink for free. That's very enviable. We can eat and drink for free, but we can forget about the banquet. Princess Ling Ming did not hesitate to say those words. It wasn't easy for me to rebuild my shrine. What if these guys cause me trouble again? What should I do? It seems that Wen and I have been the ones who have been rebuilding the shrine. Marissa laughed dryly and muttered. Besides, it's not like you don't have any benefits. The bow on Ling Ming's head shook slightly, and she snorted coldly. However, no matter how one looked at it, it seemed like she was faking it. What are you talking about? Marissa let out an extremely mischievous laugh. Do you think I don't know? The little brother from the Yakumo family has already paid you for the venue, right? How is that possible? Ling Ming's face stiffened slightly, and she put on a fake smile. How could I possibly agree to lend a venue to such a troublesome person? Is that so? It was rare for Marissa to speak in a tone as if she had the upper hand. She was immensely pleased with herself. Stop hiding it, Ling Ming. When the little brother from the Yakumo family came to borrow the venue from you, he said that he would pay you for the venue. Wen saw it and told me everything. You can't lie to me. Wen? Ling Ming was startled, and she clenched her teeth. It's that damn paparazzi again. See if I don't teach you a lesson. Ling Ming, just confess. Marissa patted Ling Ming's shoulder and said in a gentle tone, why don't I go find the little brother from the Yakumo family and tell him personally that you won't be borrowing the venue for this banquet. You won't be charging him for the venue either. How was that possible? Ling Ming's eyes widened. I am a noble Boli witch. How can I let the gold in my hands fly away? Hearing this, even with Marissa's thick nerves, the corner of her mouth couldn't help but twitch. Let's not talk about the relationship between gold coin and the witch. Just the words noble character and unquestionable integrity, when used on Princess Ling Ming, was already worth pondering over. You actually hit such a big matter for me. On the other side, Remilia was hovering in the air in a corner of the noisy crowd. She angrily shouted at Wu Yin, whose ears were hurting from being yelled at. Why didn't I know that you were planning to hold such a big banquet? Calm down. Calm down. Wu Yin hurriedly waved his hand in an attempt to calm Remilia down. I saw that you were holding a banquet in the Red Devil Mansion, so I didn't tell you. That's that. That's that. Remilia yelled in a frenzy. Such a big banquet. If others find out that the Red Devil Mansion's butler paid for it, and the Red Devil Mansion didn't contribute a single cent, where am I supposed to put my face? You said it yourself. This is this, and that is that. I didn't hold this banquet as the Red Devil Mansion's butler. Wu Yin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Besides, if it doesn't work, I can just tell others that the Red Devil Mansion is the one behind this banquet. All right, your head. Remilia's anger didn't lessen. It won't take long for people to dig out the truth about this matter. Do you think that paparazzi has been faking it all this time? Remy, calm down first. Patrice silently closed the book in her hand. She seemed to be annoyed by the ruckus and said helplessly, "The banquet is already held and most of the invited guests are here. The banquet will officially begin soon. Even if you keep making a ruckus here, it won't be of any use." Yes, now isn't the time to quarrel. Remilia snapped out of her daze and glared at Wu Yin before turning to Zui. "While there's still time, Zui, hurry up and prepare some dishes and wine for the banquet. At the very least, these things should be provided by us. That way, others won't have anything to say." "Yes, miss. Eldest young miss." Wu Yi bowed, and with a flash, he disappeared on the spot. Wu Yin could only roll his eyes. In about half an hour, the banquet would officially begin. Even if Zui Yi had the ability to manipulate time, it would be very tiring to prepare all the dishes and wine needed for the banquet during this period of time. This Remilia actually made Zui Yi work so hard just for a bit of face. It seems like I have to find some time to teach her a lesson. Wu Yan's gaze wandered between Remilia and Patrice for a while before he asked, "Right, where's Fran?" Just as Remilia was about to reply, a series of hurried footsteps entered Wu Yan's ears. Not long later, Wu Yan felt a weight on his back as two petite figures appeared. "Big brother." Fran's face was slightly flushed, and she seemed to be very happy. "Big brother." The other was Gu Ming's love. Chapter 1868. Lian Lian? Looking at the naughty Furan who was lying on his back with her head peeking out from his shoulder, Wu Yan laughed. "You're here?" Gu Ming Di Lian nodded his head heavily, his little feet dangling in the air, swaying nonstop. "Lian Lian is here, and there's a lot of people with her." Gu Ming's love, who had come to the surface more than once, naturally had seen the scene of the banquet. Moreover, after the mutation caused by the monsters in the underground world was resolved by Ling Ming, the fantasy paradise held a banquet as usual. At that time, Gu Ming's love had also participated. However, the scale of the banquet then was on a completely different level compared to this one. Putting everything else aside, the number of monsters attending the banquet alone was so large that even Gu Ming's love was surprised. "Where's your sister?" Wu Yan pinched Gu Ming Di Lian's nose. "Don't tell me that you abandoned your sister and ran over here by yourself. That's not bad. Lian Lian is not that bad. Besides, I won't let Lian Lian come alone." Gu Ming Lian wrinkled her nose and pointed in a direction. "Sister is over there." Wu Yan, Remilia, and Patrice looked in the direction Gu Ming Di Lian pointed. Gu Ming Di Lian was looking around with Spirit Wu Lu Kong and Flaming Cat Phosphor. They seemed to be looking for something. Gu Ming Di Lian scanned the surroundings, nimbly passing by demons and walking towards them. "Sister," Gu Ming Di Lian shouted. "I'm here." Gu Ming Dijue looked over when he heard Gu Ming Dijue. When he saw Furan and Gu Ming Dijue lying on Wu Yan's back, he couldn't help but grin as he walked over. "Sorry to keep you waiting." Gu Ming Di Lian smiled. "I'm not late, right?" "Thank goodness the banquet hasn't started yet." Wu Yan greeted Gu Ming Di Lian and waved at Spirit Wu Lu Kong and Flaming Cat Phosphor. "Hello, you two." Facing this one and only friend that their master thought about every day, Spirit Crow Lukong and Flaming Cat Phosphor did not dare to be negligent. They quickly bowed. "Why are you two here?" At this moment, Remilia frowned and glared at Wu Yan. "You even informed the people of Earthspear Hall, but not me. What is the meaning of this?" "Oh, please. You know they live in the underworld. They'll need some time to get here. Of course I have to inform them in advance." Remilia seemed to be brooding over the fact that he didn't inform her beforehand. Wu Yan didn't know what expression he should show. "Also, it's not like I didn't inform you. It's not like you came uninvited, so why are you still brooding over it?" "I don't care," Remilia said willfully. "If there's a next time, you have to inform me first. Do you hear me?" "Yes." Wu Yan could only reply helplessly. Patrice, Gu Ming Di Lian, and the others found it funny. And in just a short while, another familiar figure appeared on the scene. Lorbai. Following this voice, three figures appeared in Wu Yan's vision. One of them is a girl with bunny ears who greeted Wu Yan just now. One of them was a young girl with a cold and elegant temperament walking at the side. There was also an elegant young lady who walked in front of them. She was dressed in a Japanese outfit and had long, silky black hair that flowed like a waterfall. She looked like a princess. They were Penglai Mountain's Hui Yi, Yonglin Ba Yi, and Ling Xian. How lively! Penglai Mountain's Hui Yi looked at the lively scene and seemed to be lost in thought. How long has it been since this concubine saw such a lively scene? Since betraying the moon, Huey of Mount Penglai had been living in the Forever Pavilion for a long time. He did not even appear in people's sight when the Forever Pavilion held an exhibition. He hid in his room and lived an otaku life. Thus, Penglai Mountain's Hui Yi didn't know how long it had been since she went out. She also didn't know how long it had been since she saw such a lively scene. Yonglin Ba Yi also seemed to be reminiscing. Now that I think about it, it's been a long time since I saw so many people. At this moment, these two girls who didn't seem to be over 20 years old were filled with an aura of vicissitudes. It was hard for people to get used to it. Wu Yan was the only one who teased him. Now you finally know how much an otaku you are? This sentence was naturally directed at Penglai Mountain's Hui Yi. As a lady of a noble family, it's not strange that you don't go out. Penglai Mountain's Hui Yi finally recovered from her absent-minded state. She dragged her long sleeves and covered the corner of her mouth. Her beautiful eyes curved into crescent moons. Besides, the human heart is very complicated. For a weak girl like me, if I run around, I don't know when I'll be abducted by a strange uncle saying these words. Mount Penglai's Huey still acted as if it was a serious matter, tenderly stroking his cheek. Without a doubt, Mount Penglai Kagaya was a great beauty. She was a woman who was much more beautiful than those who called themselves beauties. Otherwise, she wouldn't have conquered an entire era with her beauty and written her own monogatari. When such a great beauty touched the side of her face, it was indeed breathtaking. Even Remilia, Gu Ming Diju, and the other young girls couldn't help but cast sidelong glances. Wu Yin couldn't help but retort. Let's not talk about whether you're weak or not. Only a little lowly would be abducted by a strange uncle. You're not a delicate lowly. You won't attract a strange uncle. Don't worry. Allah, have you forgotten my ability? Penglai Mountain's Hui Yi smiled slyly. My ability is to control forever and for a moment. I have already recorded the moment when I was still a lowly. I can reproduce it at any time. How about it? Do you want to see it? The lowly version of Penglai Mountain's Hui Yi. Asking if he wanted to see it or not. Of course he wanted to. For a moment, Wu Yan almost wavered. But when he saw the sly expression in Penglai Mountain's eyes, his heart suddenly turned cold. Intuition told Wu Yan that if he really answered yes, he would definitely be tricked by this two-faced princess. Thus, Wu Yan flatly refused. Forget it. You should find someone else to see it. Is that so? Penglai Mountain's Hui Yi shook her head in disappointment. A trace of vexation surfaced in her eyes. Clearly, it was because Wu Yan didn't fall for her trick. This made Wu Yan rejoice. HM. All of a sudden, Patrice lifted her head and looked in a certain direction. She paused for a moment and knitted her brows. What's wrong? Noticing Patrice's change, Remilia asked. Then, she turned to the direction Patrice was looking at just now. The others also looked over curiously. Soon after, everyone present saw another familiar figure flying towards them in midair. There were two palm-sized people floating beside him. Wu Yan's spirit jolted as he raised his hand, and without thinking, he yelled out, Alice! Hearing someone calling her, Alice, who was flying over, turned around and met Wu Yan's gaze. Her pretty face quickly turned red. It couldn't be helped. Not long ago, when Wu Yan invited her to the banquet, she placed all her attention on Eve's heart and ignored Wu Yan. As a result, she was viciously dealt with by Wu Yan. Alice still couldn't forget the scene where Wu Yan placed her in 18 different positions. In the end, she could only beg for mercy due to exhaustion. While Alice was furious, she also fiercely glared at Wu Yan. Even so, Alice obediently brought Shanghai and Penglai to land in front of Wu Yan's group. Alice didn't realize that she was getting more and more used to interacting with Wu Yin. She was no longer as distant as before. This made Wu Yin secretly delighted. If it continued like this, sooner or later, Alice would be willing to accompany him by his side, and it would be a matter of course. However, this joyful mood collapsed at the next moment. After landing in front of Wu Yin, Alice didn't look at Wu Yin immediately. Instead, she looked at Patrice. Wu Yin could only curse inwardly. These two girls with Yuri plots, they wouldn't quarrel, right? Chapter 1869. Not sure if they sensed something, but the moment Alice and Patrice exchanged glances, the surrounding girls quietened down. This wasn't the first time Ramilia had witnessed Alice and Patrice, who were usually calm and indifferent. Whenever they met, they would quarrel with each other like needles against a wheat mang. Ramilia felt a headache coming on. Gumming Diju seemed to have read some information from Alice and Patrice. He looked at Alice, Patrice, and even Wu Yin with an odd gaze before retreating to the side with Spirit Wu Lukong and Flaming Cat Phosphor. As for Yonglin and Ling Xian, they chose to observe silently. Mount Penglai's Bright Knight rolled his eyes and revealed an expression of watching a show. Even Fran and Gumming Diju, who were lying on Wu Yan's back, widened their eyes, waiting to see what would happen next. Seeing this group of despicable fellows choosing to remain silent, Wu Yin could only bitterly laugh and let Alice and Patrice go. Just when everyone thought that Alice and Patrice were going to quarrel like before, the two of them revealed helpless smiles at the same time. It was as if they had thought through something and gotten over it. I thought you weren't coming. Patrice smiled faintly. Fortunately, I'm not too late. Since you've invited me, of course, I'll come. Alice nodded her head calmly, as though everything she had done before was just like a child playing around. Moreover, wouldn't it be a loss if I didn't come to such a large-scale banquet? That's right. I don't know how long it has been since I attended such a large-scale banquet. In the past, such a banquet would only be held once a year at Boli Shrine, right? It's a pity that Boli Shrine hasn't held such a large ceremony for many years. Indeed, it's a pity. Immediately, Alice and Patrice ignored the surrounding people and started chatting with each other. Moreover, they seemed to be having a good time, causing Ramilia to be at a loss. What's going on? This question was also what Wu Yin wanted to ask. Looking at Alice and Patrice, who were chatting like old friends, Wu Yin couldn't help but think of this possibility. Could it be that these two Yuri girls have gotten over it? Could it be that he was just smiling on the surface and secretly made an appointment to find a place to fight to the death later? While Wu Yin had such a thought, Patrice suddenly spoke to Alice. Right, Marissa is over there with Princess Lingming. If you want to find her, you can go over there. Marissa? Alice was startled. Her face was filled with curiosity. Why should I find Marissa? This time, it was Patrice's turn to be startled. She hesitated for a moment before speaking. But didn't you have feelings for Marissa? I don't understand what you're talking about. As if she didn't want to hear anything, Alice interrupted Patrice and looked straight at her. If we really want to talk about it, shouldn't you be the one looking for Marissa? How could that be? Patrice's brows twitched. Marissa and I are just ordinary friends. Patrice's words weren't forced at all. Anyone could tell that she wasn't lying. At the very least, she wasn't lying. Naturally, Alice also heard it. She narrowed her eyes. But Marissa and I are also just ordinary friends. Similar to Patrice, Alice's words didn't feel like she was lying at all. Her credibility was at least 90%. In other words, because of a certain matter, the two of them had mistaken Marissa, who used to have a Yuri plot, as an ordinary friend. Because of this matter, they also mistakenly believed that the other party still had a Yuri plot towards Marissa. Simply put, the reason why Patrice and Alice didn't quarrel like before was because there was no longer a need to quarrel. Their orientations had been twisted by a certain wolf, and they no longer coveted Marissa. Therefore, they couldn't be at each other's throats anymore. Then, here comes a question. Since both of their orientations had changed, then who was the one who had changed their orientation? Even though they didn't know why the other party no longer coveted Marissa, Patrice and Alice sharply sensed who the problem was. They lifted their heads and shot their ice-cold gazes at Wu Yan. Wu Yan started sweating profusely when he heard Patrice and Alice talking to each other about what happened. Whether it was Patrice or Alice, both of them used to like Marissa. Now, it seemed like they no longer had any feelings for Marissa. However, the one who changed them was him. Wu Yan had a rough idea of what would happen next. On the other side, upon witnessing Wu Yan's sweat-drenched appearance, Patrice and Alice instantly understood what was going on. Their gazes turned sharp. Could it be that you also, toward Alice? Could it be that you also, toward Patrice? These two sentences came out of Patrice and Alice's mouth at almost the same time. At the same time, Patrice and Alice understood what was going on. They fell into silence, and their gazes toward each other were no longer as harmonious as before. Instead, their gazes were filled with the smell of gunpowder. Actually, I know about the matter between you and Marissa. After a while, Patrice revealed a sincere smile. Don't worry, I will support you. Please allow me to return those words to you. Alice neutralized Patrice's attack with an indifferent expression. Even though Marissa and I are just ordinary friends, we can still be considered neighbors. If there's anything I can help you with, don't hesitate to tell me. I will definitely help if it's within my means. It's a pity that Marissa and I are also just ordinary friends. Moreover, I feel that the two of you are quite compatible. That must be your misconception. I feel that since Marissa often goes to your place, she should have a good impression of you. Marissa only goes to my place to steal books. Perhaps she only pretends to steal books and secretly visits you. What about you? Didn't you say before that you always wanted to take time out to play with Marissa? You two should have a good relationship, right? Of course our relationship is good, but it can't be compared to the two of you. No, you must be too polite. No, you must be too modest. Patrice and Alice simultaneously revealed a bright smile that didn't contain a trace of a smile. The content of their conversation changed from a joyous conversation to an intense battle of offense and defense. Remilia's blank expression became more and more intense. What the hell is going on? Era. Mount Penglai covered her mouth and laughed. That's interesting, Sai. Guming sighed as he glanced at Wu Yan, who was sweating profusely. What grave sin, Wu Yan laughed dryly. He could only laugh dryly. Unknowingly, time passed by. At this moment, the demons that filled the empty space in front of Bori's shrine quietened down and cast their gazes forward. Wu Yan stood in the hallway of Bori's shrine under the gazes of all the demons present. It was as if he was standing on a stage. He looked at the familiar and unfamiliar people and demons below and closed his eyes. Thank you very much for coming to this banquet. I believe many of you have more or less heard of my name. Here, let me reintroduce myself. My name is Yakumo Bai. I am the head of Yakumo family and also the housekeeper of Scarlet Devil Mansion. Looking at the demons below, Wu Yan's face slowly revealed a smile. Truth be told, although I have the surname Yakumo, I am actually an outsider. I have only been in Fantasy Village for less than 10 days. During this period of time, I've met a lot of people, encountered a lot of things, traveled to a lot of places, and caused a lot of trouble. But because of this, I've also made a lot of connections, felt the beauty of the fantasy town, and seen a lot of interesting things. It makes me feel that the fantasy town is really a very incredible place. Wu Yan recalled what happened to him in a short span of 10 days in Jinsokyo. He grinned as he looked in a certain direction. There, Remilia, Fran, Patrice, Zuyi, Alice, Guming Diju, Ling Wu Lukong, Flaming Cat, Mount Penglai Kagaya, Yonglin Bai, and Ling Xian were all standing there. They seemed to have resonated with Wu Yan's words, and their expressions softened. Ling Ming, Marissa, and Fumara Sensei were also standing on the other side. They seemed to be reminiscing. In the sky, in a pitch-black spatial crack, Z, Lon, and Chung were there as well. They had sincere smiles on their faces, which calmed people down involuntarily. Wu Yan took in a deep breath. Today's banquet is not for any other reason, but for this fantasy village that has touched me a lot. I hope that this banquet will leave everyone with beautiful memories and let everyone feel the incredible things that only belong to Fantasy Village. Wu Yin raised his hand high up in the air. Let us enjoy this incredible fantasy village at this banquet. Oh, at this moment, cheers resounded in the sky of Fantasy Village and didn't die down for a long time. Chapter 1870. Night gradually fell, but the liveliness of the Boli Shrine did not decrease at all. At this moment, in the open space in front of the Boli Shrine, no matter where it was, there was a picnic cloth spread there, almost covering the open space in front of the Boli Shrine. And on these picnic cloths of various colors, hot dishes and bottles of wine had already occupied every picnic cloth. The monsters sat in twos and threes like this, laughing and chatting while eating and drinking in a lively manner. Perhaps no one realized that almost 70% of the demons who gathered in twos and threes, laughing and chatting, were not even friends. They had only met each other once, and some had not even met each other before this banquet. They were pure strangers who had not even met each other before this banquet. It was this group of monsters who were strangers to each other. At this moment, they were like relatives and friends who had known each other for many years. They chatted and got to know each other, and they even put their arms around each other's shoulders. This scene could only happen in this inconceivable fantasy town. Whether it was humans or monsters, at this moment, they forgot their identity, forgot their race, forgot their friendship, forgot everything, and only enjoyed themselves for the sake of happiness. Under such circumstances, in the sky above the Boli Shrine, for almost the entire day, there were all kinds of noises echoing. But among these noises, there was laughter. It did not make people feel that it was noise, and it was annoying. Fortunately, before this banquet, Wu Yin had already prepared a variety of dishes and wine. In addition, before the banquet began, Zhan Yi had also helped to prepare a lot. Even though there were many monsters who came to the banquet, there was always enough food, and it did not dampen everyone's spirits. Of course, no matter how abundant it was, even if food was provided infinitely, the stomachs of the people who came to the banquet were limited. Even the monsters with special physiques were the same. Thus, when night fell, the sky turned dark. In the open space in front of the Boli Shrine, there were already many monsters with bitter faces. They held their big bellies and looked like they could not take it anymore. And those who were laughing and chatting with those who were full, but still had energy to spare, simply stood up. He allowed them to rest as he walked towards the tablecloths below. He continued to drink in big gulps and laughed loudly. He was having a great time. In addition to food, drinking was also a problem. They had been drinking since the morning, and by noon, many of them had already collapsed to the ground with flushed faces. They even burped from time to time, as if they were in a drunken stupor. There was even a silly smile on their faces. Those who were still awake continued to play, from noon until late at night. Some people who woke up in the middle of the night continued to drink, and naturally, they were going to faint anyway, so they might as well just get drunk. In this place, some people liked the atmosphere of drinking. Some people liked to be drunk. Some people just kept drinking. Some people simply lay down on the ground and fell into a deep sleep. Wu Yin had already prepared for all of this before the banquet began. Moreover, in every banquet, there were bound to be people drunk all over the ground, and the way to deal with it had already been decided long ago. Thus, under Wu Yan's guidance, every time a drunk person passes out, the Yoshi maids of Scarlet Devil Mansion would bring thick clothes or blankets and cover the drunk person or monster on the ground. Then, they would let the drunk person go to sleep. In any case, most of the people who came to the banquet were monsters, and it was impossible for them to catch a cold or have a fever from sleeping on the ground for a night, right? Just like this, the banquet was still lively. Sitting in a corner, Wu Yan held a wine plate full of wine in his hand and took small sips as he looked around. Oh, come, continue drinking. Lying on Wu Yan's left were Amelia and Guming Dijue. These two girls were at odds from the beginning, as if they wanted to continue the battle that day, and kept drinking, and in the end, naturally, they fell there drunk and could not get up again. Big Brother, on Wu Yan's right, Furan and Guming Dijue were also lying down, sleeping very comfortably with faint smiles on their faces. Unlike her elder sister, these two girls were only tired because they had been running around the banquet hall all day. I won't lose. Look at my power. On the side, Patrice and Alice also lay down. Looking at their flushed faces, it seems like they drank quite a bit as well. Moreover, they were also competing, even more so than Ramilia and Guming Dijue. As for Spirit Crow Lu Kong and Flame Cat Lin, they were also unable to bear the effects of the alcohol, and had been lying down since noon, sleeping soundly until now. Only Sakuya was left alone, looking at the drunk eldest miss, the tired second miss, and the drunk Patrice. He had a conflicted expression. He seemed to want to bid farewell to his mistress and return home to rest. But before he could say anything, he was pulled away by Marissa and Sensei Marumi. Right now, Zui is still being persuaded to drink by Princess Lingming, Marissa, and Fumaru. Looking at his swaying appearance, he should not be drunk for long. Sigh. Yin helplessly shook his head as he looked at this pitiful scene. He gently picked up some clothes and covered the bodies of the drunk and sleeping girls with them. In the sky, a dazzling full moon had unknowingly risen. The clamor continued. Some of the demons who were not drunk were still chatting with each other and eating and drinking. Compared to the morning, the scene was a little quieter, but it was still very lively. Looking at the beautiful full moon in the distance, Wu Yin picked up a wine plate and poured wine into it. While admiring the moon, he continued to sip the wine in his hand. Not long later, light footsteps could be heard. The person who came did not have the slightest intention to avoid arousing suspicion and directly sat beside Wu Yan, allowing that beautiful black hair to enter Wu Yan's eyes. Although he didn't turn his head to look, in his impression, among all the people he knows here, there's only one person who has such beautiful long black hair that cascades down like a waterfall. Moreover, he personally combed this long black hair before. Wu Yan chuckled. He didn't stop looking at the full moon. He didn't even turn his head around. Do you want a drink? Forget it. Like a dignified princess, the girl did not have any intention to play around. Her tone was tranquil. I just drank a little with Yonglin, but perhaps it's because I haven't drunk for too long. My alcohol tolerance can't be compared to before. Wu Yan didn't try to persuade him any further. He just filled his own plate to the brim. Mount Penglai did not reply. She raised her head and looked at the full moon that was emitting a silver light. Strange ripples appeared in her beautiful eyes. It's still as beautiful as ever. Is that so? Wu Yan gently shook the wine in the wine plate in his hand. You can't see the moon on the moon, right? But you can see the ground. Mount Penglai's face was serene, as if he was reminiscing. It's different in the moon capital. You don't have to wait until nighttime to see the moon. In the moon capital, you can see the ground at any time. Perhaps it's because I've seen too much of the beauty of the ground and the coldness of the moon capital that I'm looking forward to life on the ground. That might be the case. Wu Yan closed his eyes and smiled, no longer answering. After a long time, Mount Penglai's Hui Yi suddenly spoke. You're planning to leave the land of fantasy, right? Can you tell? Wu Yan was not surprised. He knew that he could not hide it from Mount Penglai's Hui Yi. Even if he could hide it from Mount Penglai's Hui Yi, he could not hide it from Yonglin. Even if I say yes, you won't leave with me, right? Including this time, we've only met 3 times. Mount Penglai's Hui Yi said with a smile that was not a smile. Do you think that just because we've met 3 times, I'll be able to follow you or follow you to another world? It's because I don't think so that I didn't mention this to you. Wu Yan's expression was still calm as he sipped his wine and said this. But you came to find me at this time. This proves that you're not that against it, right? Perhaps. Mount Penglai Huey nodded his head in agreement. He stood up, turned around, and, as he walked out, he lightly left behind such a sentence. I'll wait for the day when you can take me away. Looking at the full moon in the sky and listening to those clear words, Wu Yan's eyes began to ripple. He was a little drunk. Chapter 1871. When the moon rose to the highest position in the night sky, the clamor that had been resounding in the sky above the Boli shrine had disappeared without a trace, as if it had been completely extinguished. Ignoring those who were already drunk, Those who were still sober had quieted down. They held their wine plates, raised their heads, and looked at the night sky. Except for the full moon, there was no light at all. In the endless pitch-black night sky, all the sober monsters saw it. An extremely weak red stream of light, as weak as the flame on a match, suddenly rose from the back of the Boli shrine, broke through the air, and flew toward the deep night sky at a speed that was neither fast nor slow. Boom! Along with such a loud noise, the pitch-black night sky was instantly illuminated by an inexplicable light source. An incomparably bright and colorful flower exploded in the sky, and at the same time, a beautiful flower-like picture was imprinted in everyone's eyes. It was a firework that was bright and dazzling to the extreme, enough to cover the night sky in everyone's field of vision. When the firework exploded in the night sky, everyone present felt a ringing in their ears and a tremor in their chests. Their hearts stopped beating in an instant, and before the bright and dazzling flower of light disappeared from the eyes of the monsters, another loud noise, another explosion, and a bright flower of light bloomed in the night sky. Boom, 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 boom. Not long after, the entire night sky above the Boli shrine was covered with bright fireworks, blooming in the sky along with the loud noises that rang out one after another. The pupils and faces of the monsters were all rendered colorful by the colors of the fireworks in the night sky. It looked so brilliant that everyone present seemed to be in a daze. They quietly looked at the fireworks blooming in the sky. They had forgotten everything else. As the priestess of the Boli shrine and the manager of the fantasy paradise, Ling Meng was drunk and unconscious, so she regretfully missed this scene. Marissa and soul-shooting Maru were also drunk and fell to the ground. He was snoring loudly. I can't do it again. Many of the monsters had been drinking for the entire day. There was so much wine, it was enough to make all the demons drunk. Some even drank until they vomited. After vomiting and drinking again, even their faces had turned green. However, the demons who were still sober were extremely glad that they didn't fall drunk and miss this wonderful night of fireworks. These fireworks were also the signal that announced the end of the banquet. At some point in time, the fireworks ended. The drunk Guming Di Ju and the sleeping Guming Di Love were carried back to the underground world by Spirit Wu Lu Kong and Flaming Cat Lin, who finally woke up. Ling Xian is also drunk. Even Mount Penglai's Bright Knight is a little drunk. Under the care of Yonglin, the only sober one, they leave quietly. As for Ling Meng, Marissa, and Fumi Maru, the three of them were directly thrown into the Boli shrine, where they continued to sleep. The rest of the demons also began to bid farewell to the others. Then, they brought along those they were familiar with and left in groups of 3 to 5. When they left, the demons didn't have a trace of reluctance. In the fantasy paradise, there would be a banquet every once in a while. Thus, there was no need to be reluctant at the end of the banquet. Thus, after a joyous farewell, the demons left the Boli shrine with a face full of joy. At this point, the banquet that was held for the sake of this incredible fantasy land was finally completed. It had come to an end. Ugh! Holding their heads, Patrice and Alice staggered as they walked. Their bodies swayed as though they could fall at any moment. Before the fireworks started, Patrice and Alice woke up. Perhaps it was an agreement, but they miraculously woke up at the same time. Thus, Patrice and Alice were fortunate enough to witness the rarely seen fireworks in the fantasy paradise. However, even after waking up, the hangover headache still affected Patrice and Alice. The two of them could barely walk and couldn't fly as they trudged forward step by step. In order to take care of Patrice and Alice, Wu Yin and Zhang Yi, who were carrying Fran and Remilia, purposely slowed down their pace. They walked on both sides of Patrice and Alice, taking care of them while walking at a tortoise's pace. Wu Yin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Can't I just use spatial teleportation to bring you back? Why do you have to walk? Muck. Patrice muttered cute words as she held her head. Her face was still red, but she stubbornly shook her head. I haven't reached the stage where I can't walk. After speaking, Patrice shot a glance at Alice beside her, allowing Alice to put on a brave front and speak. Me too. Obviously, the two of them wanted to compete with each other. That's why they didn't let Wu Yin carry them. It took them a lot of effort to walk. Wu Yin and Zhang Yi glanced at each other and could only reveal a bitter smile. Fortunately, Zhang Yi didn't get drunk by Ling Ming and Marissa. Otherwise, who knows what kind of mess it would be. Looking at Patrice and Alice wobbling as they walk, Kuoye's delicate face is flushed red. Wu Yin thought for a bit before he spoke up. Let's go. All right, let me tell you something. Alice and Sakuya looked at Wu Yin in confusion. Patrice rolled her eyes at Wu Yin, which is a rare sight to see. Don't tell me you're going to consume some troublesome medicine to obtain someone's blood and destroy their home? Blood. Alice knitted her brows in confusion. However, Wu Yin, Patrice, and Zhang Yi didn't explain anything to her, because Wu Yin's next sentence caused everyone's heart to tremble. It should be the opposite. Wu Yin looked ahead and didn't look at Patrice, Alice, and Zhang Yi's expressions. I have found the 5 drops of blood essence with mystical powers. It is time to leave Fantasyland. Leave Fantasyland? Patrice, Alice, and Zhang Yi stopped in their tracks. Wu Yin also stopped in his tracks, but didn't look at the girls' expressions. He looked ahead, as though he didn't want to see a trace of sadness on their faces. On the other hand, Patrice, Alice, and Zuiye's expressions were constantly changing. Their emotions were fluctuating up and down. None of them said a word, causing the scene to become strangely silent. Phew. In the end, it was Patrice who returned to her usual self and nodded nonchalantly. Are you coming back? Alice and Raven Knight didn't say anything, but both of them became alert in an instant. Under the gazes of the 3 girls, Wu Yin nodded his head with an unquestionable attitude. Of course. Then, Zhang Yi hesitated for a moment before asking, how long will Lord Bai be away? I'm not sure. Wu Yin shook his head, but it won't exceed a year. I will definitely return within a year. Penglai Mountain's Bright Night was Wu Yan's summon. Since Penglai Mountain's Bright Night didn't follow Wu Yin to the Spalier world and chose to stay in this world, the time in this world wouldn't be completely frozen. Instead, it would be 100 times slower than the time in Wu Yan's world. No matter how long Wu Yin spent in another world, the barrier in Fantasyland would disappear after a year. At that time, Wu Yin wouldn't just sit by and watch. He would definitely return to Fantasyland. Therefore, a year was the longest time limit. A year? Patrice, Alice, and Zhang Yi heaved a sigh of relief. A year wasn't too long for Patrice, who had lived for at least 100 years, and Alice, who had a long lifespan. As for Zhang Yi, he was an ordinary human and didn't have as long a lifespan as Alice and Patrice. However, a year wasn't considered long in a human's lifespan. Therefore, a year wasn't something he couldn't accept. Seeing the 3 girls heaving a sigh of relief, Wu Yin also heaved a sigh of relief. Patchouli, Alice, and Bei were happy that he didn't make them sad. Chapter 1872. Fantasy Village, Red Devil Mansion. Passing through the long corridor of the Red Devil Mansion that was surrounded by bright red without many windows, Ruo Yi came to the front of a staircase. Ruo Yi directly climbed up the stairs, walked out of the Red Devil Mansion, and came to the roof of the Red Devil Mansion. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. Just as she reached the roof before the night wind could blow on Ruoye's body, the high bell tower that belonged to the Red Devil Mansion sounded midnight, representing the passing of a day and the arrival of a new day. The pleasant sound of the bell mixed with the sound of the wind and spread in all directions. Only then did the slightly cold night wind gently blow on Ruoye's body, causing her bright silver hair to flutter. The skirt of the maid dress also rose and fell with the arrival of the wind, and the corners of the skirt swayed in a beautiful circle. This scene could not be described as not beautiful. At this moment, the soul-stirring beauty Ruoyi reached out her hand and casually pushed the hair that fluttered up and down in front of her eyes behind her ear. She raised her eyes and looked forward. There, after coming to the Red Devil Mansion, he had been wearing a suit that could be used as both casual clothes and formal clothes. Wu Yin, who had changed into an ordinary black shirt, trousers, and a black coat, stood there with his back to Ruo Yi. As if he did not notice Ruo Yi's arrival, he looked into the distance. Looking at the figure that was looking into the distance, Ruo Yi unknowingly became infatuated. It had to be said that Wu Yan was really suitable to exist at night. This was not to say that Wu Yan's character was darker and shameful, but that Wu Yan's body emitted a deep and mysterious aura from time to time. Under the influence of a night, he was like the king of the night. It made people reluctant to part with him. And Ruo Yi also knew. The person in front of her was indeed the true king of the night, because he was the fantasy village and even the entire world. The one and only true ancestor of vampires. The person she served was originally a noble among vampires. Jaya was already used to the aura of vampires. In addition, an extremely important position in his heart had been taken away by the man in front of him in a short period of 10 days. But he couldn't stop himself from being obsessed with that figure. Just as Lu Yi was reluctant to part with the figure that almost merged with the night, the owner of the figure finally couldn't help but chuckle. He spoke. "Since you are here, why don't you come over?" Only then did Ruo Yi come to her senses, as if she was startled awake. After realizing her performance just now, her pretty face couldn't help but blush slightly, but she still walked forward. However, Zui Yi stopped some distance away from Wu Yan. This was Dark Knight's position. Zui Yi had always positioned himself as a servant, not as a friend or lover who could sit on the same level as Wu Yan. Even if one day Zui Yi would follow Wu Yan as a lover, she would never emphasize her position by Wu Yan's side as a lover. It wasn't that Zui Yi felt inferior or that she didn't think she was worthy of Wu Yan. However, this kind of positioning was the only way for Zui Yi to truly express himself. She would always be the perfect and chic headmaid. There was no one else. The soft moonlight sprinkled from the sky, shining on the man and woman who were like master and servant. Tonight, there were no bright stars in the night sky of the fantasy village, nor was there a mysterious light source. There was only the round moon emitting soft light. The cool night breeze was like a cold breath, drilling into the noses of Wu Yan and Zui Yi, but both of them were staring at the night scene in front of them. The bright night sky, the walls of the Red Devil Mansion, the quiet courtyard, the huge clock tower. Even the scenery of the entire fantasy village seemed to be seen by the man and woman who were like master and servant at this moment. Everything was presented in front of Wu Yan and Zui Yi. Wu Yan didn't look back to look. Zui Yi didn't express all the words she wanted to say. It was as if thousands of words were no longer important. On this night of parting, Zui Yi spat out these words. "Don't you want to tell Miss and Miss?" With Remilia's current good impression of Wu Yan, if she knew that Wu Yan left without saying goodbye, she would definitely be furious or even depressed for a while. According to Wu Yan himself, this time, he wouldn't take Fran with him. In other words, Wu Yan would let Fran stay by Remilia's side. Otherwise, if her most important brother and sister left at the same time, Remilia wouldn't be sitting in the Red Devil Mansion. It was more likely that she would cause a ruckus in the fantasy village and look for Wu Yan and Fran. In any case, Penglai Mountain's Hui Yi was also here and couldn't be taken away. Letting Fran stay might not be a bad choice. But at the same time, if she knew that Wu Yan left without saying goodbye, wouldn't Fran cause a huge ruckus? Those two girls definitely won't let me go so easily. Wu Yan sighed faintly. "I will be back in a year. It's not like I won't come back. Before I leave, I don't want those two girls to be too sad." Ji Yi was silent for a short while before he spoke again. "Then what about Miss Patrice and Miss Alice? Don't you want to say goodbye to them before leaving? What about Miss Ling Ming and Miss Marissa? What about Lord Bai's friends in Earth Spirit Hall? Don't you plan on informing them?" "Since I don't plan on telling those two girls, I naturally can't favor one and discriminate against the other. Otherwise, Remy and Fran will definitely feel unbalanced." Wu Yan couldn't help but smile. "So, I'll have to trouble you to inform them, yes." Zui Yi thought for a while before nodding. Zui Yi understands. After saying this, there was another indescribable silence. It wasn't that Wu Yan had nothing to say to Zui Yi, nor that Zui Yi didn't want to say anything to Wu Yan. It was just that the two of them had the same thought. 1,000 words couldn't compare to a simple greeting at the moment of reunion. Since that was the case, it was better to not say anything and leave everything for the moment of reunion. Not long after, a pitch-black spatial crack filled with ferocious eyeballs appeared above the Scarlet Devil Mansion. 3 tall and petite figures walked out from it. They jumped up and lightly landed in front of Wu Yin and Zui. Looking at the leader of the 3 figures, Zui cried out in surprise. Devil Sage? The newcomers were Violet's Shikigami and Violet's Shikigami, blue and orange. Violet smiled and nodded at Zui before looking at Wu Yin and shrugging. Looks like you're ready to leave. What about you? Wu Yin shrugged. You're not going to stay here? Back then, when Witchboli borrowed the power of the dragon god to build the Great Barrier, I was also the one who assisted and witnessed everything. Even if someone else were to complete this job, I would still be responsible. Z replied vaguely. Besides, we're used to running around with you. Wu Yin couldn't help but laugh. Then let's set out. Yukari nodded nonchalantly. On the other hand, Lan stepped forward and bowed to Wu Yin. Lord White, I'll leave Lord Violet to you. Sorry to trouble you, meow. Orange quickly bowed as well. Lord White. Zui's eyes flickered before he bowed as well. I wish you all the best. Wu Yin quietly looked at Sakuya. Both of them stared at each other for a while. Neither of them looked away. Until a certain moment, Wu Yin closed his eyes and didn't say a word. He disappeared with the silent Violet. Zui, blue, and orange stared in the direction the two disappeared in. They didn't react for a long time. No one noticed that at the entrance of the Scarlet Devil Mansion, several figures were standing in the corridor. They were Remilia, who was supposed to be drunk, Fran, who was sound asleep, Alice, and Patrice, who was in her library. Fran hugged Remilia tightly and held back her tears. She didn't cry, and only asked with a choked voice, Big brother will come back, right? Of course. Remilia nodded heavily and hugged Fran tightly. Her voice was firm. He'll definitely come back. Patrice and Alice looked at the pair of sisters who were tightly hugging each other and exchanged glances with the same expression in their eyes. Reluctance. But more than that, there was determination. Patrice and Alice also believed in him. William will definitely do it again, back to Fantasy Village. Chapter 1873. Behemoth Forest, capital of alternate generations. It's a bright and sunny morning. In such a cold morning, with cold winds blowing from time to time, it was believed that everyone would subconsciously resist leaving their beds the moment they woke up. Although the temperature isn't that cold, it's only around 11 or 12 degrees Celsius. In such a temperature, ordinary people might have to wear some clothes to resist the cold before they could walk outside. However, for those cultivators with a certain level of cultivation, that is, those warriors and mages with combat chi and mana flowing in their bodies, even if they wore summer clothes, they wouldn't feel the slightest bit cold. After all, when fighting aura and magic power flowed through the body of the user to a certain extent, they would provide some protection to the body. Unfortunately, in this spallier world where only warriors and mages can cultivate, there are people who don't have impetus and mana flowing through their body. They aren't warriors or mages, but they have power that ordinary warriors and mages can't match. Thus, all of them gathered in the mystical capital of a different generation. The barrier of the capital of alternate generations would provide a certain level of protection to the city within. For example, the barrier allows the capital of alternate generations to maintain a relatively warm temperature. It allows the temperature in the capital of alternate generations to not fluctuate too much. If the sun is too strong, the light will be controlled to a suitable range. But 11 or 12 degrees Celsius isn't that cold. Therefore, the barrier covering the entire capital of otherworldly beings didn't undergo much adjustment, causing the entire capital of otherworldly beings to be filled with a chilly air. Under such circumstances, the Misaka sisters who came to the streets put on their autumn clothes and went out to continue their lives in the capital of otherworldly beings. Of course, in this relatively cold weather, the weather was very cold. In the morning, many of the Misaka sisters chose to lie in their beds and didn't want to come out. It's the same phenomenon. It's also happening in the heart of alternate generations. While the rest of the girls were still on the roof of the heart of alternate generations undergoing their transformations. In the heart of alternate generations, only a handful of 4 girls who had completed their transformation could move. The president of the student council of the White Emperor College from the world of the whirlwind butler, Gue Chaju. Hailing from the world of magical porn, Tokiwada's electric princess, Misaka Mikato. It came from the world of heavenly objects. The strongest strategic angel in history, Ikaros. There was also Astrea, the all-purpose angel who came from the world of heavenly objects. It was these 4 girls who could be said to be famous to a certain extent, but at this time, their actions were quite shocking. A certain president, whose swordsmanship had already reached the level of a god, was half awake and half asleep. He wrapped himself in a blanket like a dumpling, vexed because he didn't know where to find autumn clothes to wear. A certain popular idol of Tokuwadai, whose electric shock ability was equally godly, also hid under his blanket in his room because of the cold temperature. Like a tortoise, he refused to come out for a long time. A certain natural all-purpose angel, who wasn't afraid of the cold, sat on the bed in her room. The ahog on her head swayed back and forth as she stared blankly at the sky outside the window. No one knew what she was thinking. As for the last one, a certain glutton who could never be full, she was the only one who came out of her room in the heart of alternate generations and came to the living room. However, the king of gluttony, who could never be full, indicated that he was also distressed, because she was squatting in a corner of the living room with her hands on her knees, staring at a square object in front of her. She pouted, and her delicate body was trembling. In the living room, there was a fridge used by Wu Yin and the girls to store drinks, desserts, and snacks. Now, Astrea was squatting there, staring at the opened fridge. Her eyes were filled with struggle. Taking a closer look, the usual drinks, desserts, and snacks in the fridge had all been used up. Only a round object was left, sitting alone in the fridge. A watermelon. A very ordinary watermelon. This ordinary watermelon was the only thing left in the fridge. Astrea was starving, so she ran out of her room to look for something to eat. When she opened the fridge and saw the watermelon, her eyes were glued to it. Her eyes were filled with desire and struggle as she stared at the watermelon. Astrea's delicate body trembled. Even her lips were trembling. Can I eat it? At first glance, it sounded like nonsense. But if someone in the know knew about this, they would be shocked that the glutton Astrea was able to resist eating the food placed in front of her when she was hungry. By the time they realized what was going on, they would have a look of understanding on their face. There was no other reason. This watermelon is Ikaros' favorite. Ikaros has a strange hobby. She likes watermelons. It's not because she likes the taste. It's also not because she likes its existence. It's just because she likes the round watermelon. The watermelon in front of her was placed in the fridge last night because Ikaros didn't want it to rot. Now it's the thing that Astrea is struggling with. Eat it. Ikaros is bound to get angry, and when she gets angry, other than Wu Yin, no one can stop her. She might even go on a rampage and destroy the Jin's heart. Don't eat it. But Astrea is hungry. Unconsciously, Astrea reached out her trembling hand towards the watermelon in the fridge. Just as she was about to touch the watermelon, she pulled her hand back as if she was frightened. She shook her head vigorously. No, I can't. Ikaros-senpai will kill me. Astrea tried to close the fridge after she said that. But, rumble, a drawn-out voice came from Astrea's stomach. Astrea's resolute expression crumbled. She looked at Watermelon with teary eyes. She seemed to be wavering. If it's just a whiff, it should be fine, right? Astrea gulped. She didn't think about the taste of the watermelon. She slowly reached her trembling hand towards the fridge. Just as she was about to touch the watermelon, the image of Ikaros entering Sky Empress mode after knowing her watermelon was destroyed surfaced in Astrea's mind. She couldn't help but twitch a little. No, I can't. I'll die. I'll definitely die. Astrea couldn't control her body anymore. She reached out her hand and grabbed onto the hand that was reaching into the fridge. She struggled in pain. Don't blame Astria for making a fuss. Mikoto once said that Ikaros doesn't seem like a saintess. She doesn't even know if there's anything she likes. Astria heard it from Wu Yin, who refuted Mikoto's words. Who said that? Ikaros loves watermelons. She loves watermelons so much that if someone destroys them, even if it's her family or acquaintances, she'll go crazy. Not only Mikoto, even Hinajiku and the other girls laughed out loud when they heard Wu Yin saying that they can't imagine Ikaros getting angry. Astria was the same. Well, it can't be helped. Other than Wu Yin, Ikaros' expression doesn't change in the slightest no matter what she's facing. But it's one thing to not imagine it. It's another to not believe it. Astria wasn't as attached to her master as Ikaros was. She wouldn't leave her master's side for even a second. Regardless of love, loyalty, or obedience, Astria was on the same level as Ikaros. That's why Astria didn't think she'd get lucky. She covered her mouth and whimpered, as if she was afraid her mouth wouldn't listen to her. Translation: I have to leave this dangerous place. Astria was about to close the fridge when she heard a suspicious voice. What are you doing? Chapter 1874. What are you doing? The voice came from behind Astria. Astria's hand that was reaching for the fridge froze. Her face turned pale. As expected, Astria, who thought she was captured, let out a sorrowful cry. The pure white wings on her back flapped, and she fell to the ground like she was paralyzed. But before Astria could fall to the ground, a hand reached out from the side and wrapped around Astria's slender waist. After that, the voice that was filled with doubt earlier was now filled with helplessness. What the hell are you doing? Astria was shocked. Astria was familiar with the voice. Even the temperature of the hand around her waist was familiar. Astria recognized the owner of the hand. Astria raised her head in fear. She saw a pair of wine-red eyes filled with helplessness and helplessness. A face she would never forget. Astria's pale face was replaced with joy. Master, do you still remember that I am your master? Wu Yin said in an annoyed tone. You look like you saw a ghost when you heard my voice. I thought you didn't recognize me anymore. Then, Wu Yin helped Astria up so that she wouldn't fall down again. Then, he let go of Astria. Only then did Astria notice that Wu Yin isn't the only one in the hall. There's also a girl with waist-length golden hair holding a paper fan. She's also looking at Astria with a helpless expression. Sister Yukari? I thought Astria-chan didn't notice us. Yukari chuckled when she saw Astria's shocked expression. She didn't seem to be able to react to the situation. Thank goodness. I'm not completely invisible. Astria heard that. Astria finally realized what was going on. Wu Yin and Yukari are back. Alas, before Astria could cry out in joy, a voice came from the other side of the hall. In the hallway, a series of hurried footsteps and anxious shouts echoed in the air. What's going on? A voice came from behind. Several figures appeared at the entrance of the hall. Needless to say, it was Chuju, Mikoto, and Ikaros. But this time, Chuju was still wrapped in a thick blanket. Mikoto was still in her pajamas. The only one who was dressed properly was Ikaros. The three girls must have heard Astria's cries and rushed over. They didn't even have time to tidy up their attire. Hinajiku, Mikoto, and Ikaros saw Wu Yin and Yukari standing next to Astria when they entered the hall. Master, Ikaros, who was still as calm as an ancient well a second ago, now had an uncontrollable ripple in her indigo pupils. Yin? Hinajiku exclaimed in surprise. And Yukari? Yukari, you're back? Mikoto's face was also filled with shock. How did you guys get back so fast? It was indeed a little fast. Wu Yin stayed in Jinsokyo for less than a month. He only stayed in there for a couple of days. With the time ratio of 100, a dozen days wasn't even half a day in Silveria's time. Only 3 to 4 hours had passed. Chuju, Mikoto, Ikaros, and Astria just sent Wu Yin, Yukari, and Furin away early in the morning. Chuju and Mikoto went back to sleep. When they woke up, Wu Yin and Yukari were back. Ikaros and Astria, who didn't need to sleep, weren't surprised. Unlike Chuju and Mikoto, who woke up to Wu Yin and Yukari's return. After regaining her senses, Mikoto was the first to ask with uncertainty. Mission completed? Wu Yin and Yukari looked at each other and shrugged. I guess you can say that. Where's Furan? Hinajiku furrowed her brows. Why don't I see her? Well, Wu Yin scratched his cheek and sat down on the sofa. He poured himself a glass of water and drank it in one gulp. Furan is staying in Fantasyland with her sister for a while. So it's like that. Mikoto nodded thoughtfully. She looked at Yukari and asked curiously, Yukari, why don't you stay in your house for a while? Before I came to this world and became Yin-Yan Summon, I spent most of my time in Fantasyland. Yukari replied nonchalantly. Well, we have plenty of time ahead of us. Chuju and Mikoto didn't know what Yukari meant by plenty of time ahead of us. However, Yukari didn't seem to have any intention of explaining, so they didn't ask. All right, I heard Astria moaning loudly in the room just now. Hinajiku remembered why she rushed over in a hurry and looked at Astria. Asteria-chan, what happened? Astria, who was still in a daze, jumped in fright. She shrieked out loud. Don't kill me. Hinajiku's face was filled with confusion. Not just Hinajiku, even Wu Yin, Mikoto, and Ikaros, who snuck up behind Wu Yin like she's on standby, are all confused. Even Yukari, who is known as the sage, doesn't know what's going on. Don't kill me? What do you mean by that? Astria shook her head like a rattle drum when she regained her senses. No, it's nothing. I didn't mean to eat the watermelon. Ugh, everyone was speechless. Is that self-destruction? As expected of an idiot with an IQ lower than 9. That's great. Both Hinajiku and Mikoto rolled their eyes at the same time, yawned, waved their hands, and walked towards their rooms. Let's go back and change. Hinajiku and Mikoto disappeared into the hallway, leaving behind Astria, who was sweating profusely and looking at Ikaros with a terrified expression. Before Astria could turn around, a hand landed on her shoulder. Astria froze. Yuwa! Astria's sorrowful wail echoed throughout the heart of generations once more. Just like that, a lively and peaceful day passed by. Endless darkness covered the clear sky, enveloping the entire Spalier world in darkness. Today, the behemoth forest didn't give off any ominous aura. Logically speaking, a place like the behemoth forest is filled with vicious demonic beasts. No matter how one tries to disguise themselves, they shouldn't be able to hide the ominous aura. But today, the behemoth forest is no different from a normal forest. The smell of demonic beasts that used to permeate the air has mostly disappeared. It's as if most of the demonic beasts in the behemoth forest are no longer in the behemoth forest. When midnight arrived, a silhouette rushed over from outside the behemoth forest. The silhouette seemed to be enchanted with some sort of magic that boosted her speed. She rushed towards the behemoth forest and stopped right in front of the behemoth forest. Moonlight shone down from the sky and shrouded the silhouette standing in front of the behemoth forest. Her face was covered in sweat, her breathing was ragged, and her eyes were filled with exhaustion. She wore a robe befitting of a sorcerer, but it wasn't a terrifying black. Instead, it was a beautiful silver-white robe. The silhouette had long black hair that reached her waist. She looked to be around 17 or 18 years old. She was very young, but her face was so beautiful that it wouldn't be an exaggeration to call her a beauty capable of causing the downfall of a city. If Wu Yin and the other girls were here, they would definitely recognize this girl. Mei Lilu, Lori, the only daughter of the Ailu Empire's #1 family, the Lori family. It's Lulu, the girl who is still studying at the Spalier World Academy. However, on Lulu's delicate face, there was not only a strong sense of anxiety, but also a great sense of fear. A must find him quickly. Raising her eyes and looking at the eerily silent forest, Lulu mustered her courage, wiped her sweat and tears, and without hesitation, rushed into this dangerous place. Chapter 1875, Behemoth Forest. The lush green forest was shrouded in a layer of haze due to the darkness of the night. The shadows cast by the tall trees and bushes were the only things that could be seen. In these shadows, no one knew if there was a ferocious beast that ate human bodies hiding in them. And if anyone passed by, it would pounce out and bring them hell. Therefore, even though most of the dangerous aura in the giant beast forest had disappeared for some unknown reason, the feeling of fear that came from the bottom of one's heart was still unavoidable. This caused the atmosphere to become a little tense. However, it was in this frightening and tense forest that a beautiful girl with pure white wings was flying at an extremely slow speed. She didn't rise into the air and just flew between the dense trees, sobbing as she flew. So scary. Ikaro-senpai is so scary when she's angry. It's Astrea who escaped from the capital of alternate generations to avoid Ikaros. The capital of alternate generations might be covered by Yukari's barrier, but it has a very human-like design, similar to the boundary between illusion and reality in Fantasy Village. Although the barrier covering the capital of alternate generations would not automatically attract monsters or whatnot, it could identify those who entered and left. As long as the barrier remembered the presence, it was not difficult to enter and exit the capital of alternate generations at will. Of course, only Wu Yin and the girls living in the heart of alternate generations have this privilege. The Misaka sisters don't have this privilege. After all, with the number of Misaka sisters and their unpredictable personalities, it wouldn't be strange for one or two of them to go missing at any time. It would be troublesome if that happened. That's why only Wu Yin and his summons can enter and leave the capital of alternate generations as they please. He didn't know what kind of torture Ikaros inflicted on Astrea. Astrea didn't look any different on the surface, but her crimson eyes flashed with fear from time to time. Astrea didn't dare to stop for a second. I wonder if Ikaro-senpai is still angry. She turned around. Astrea grumbled pitifully as she looked at the direction of the capital of alternate generations. I want to be with Master. I want to eat Master's cooking. While Astrea was hesitating on whether she should go back or not, in the forest not far away, some noises resounded in the air. Astrea looked at him with a confused expression. She was surprised. That's... Among the dense trees, on the ground, Lulu was drenched in sweat. She was panting as she ran. Her face was filled with anxiety. You. Behind Lulu, several magical beasts as large as elephants, some in the form of wolves, some in the form of dogs, and some in the form of elephants, were nimbly flitting through the trees, roaring as they chased after Lulu. Lulu turned around and saw the demonic beasts chasing after her. Her face turned even paler. It wasn't that Lulu was afraid of these magical beasts. These magical beasts looked terrifying, but they were only around the 5th or 6th order. To Lulu, who had already reached the 7th order, they were nothing to be afraid of. There are two reasons why Lulu's face turned pale. First, if these demonic beasts catch up to her, she might be able to defeat them, but she will waste a lot of time. As for Lulu, she didn't have much time to waste. As for the other reason, according to Lulu's knowledge, there shouldn't be many magic beasts left in the giant beast forest. Most of the magic beasts that were left were rank 1, 2, and 3 magic beasts. Most of the magic beasts that were left were already gone. Rank 5 and 6 demonic beasts aren't that high, but there shouldn't be many left in the behemoth forest. Lulu didn't expect that she would be so unlucky to encounter these demonic beasts when she was in a hurry. Seeing that the demonic beasts were getting closer, Lulu gritted her teeth and turned around. Magical powers gushed out from her body, and a staff appeared in her hand. The gem on the tip of the staff lit up. Shortly after, a few huge icicles with a diameter of 2 meters fell from the sky and smashed onto the demonic beasts who couldn't react in time. Boom! In a muffled sound, crimson blood flowed from the bottom of the huge icicles and stained the ground red. The few demonic beasts were smashed into minced meat. Oh! The rest of the magical beasts didn't even bother to pay attention to their dead brethren. They continued to charge forward without slowing down, and quickly, surrounded Lulu. Swish! In an instant, two of the demonic beasts that surrounded Lulu couldn't wait any longer. They burst out and slashed their razor-sharp claws at Lulu. Clang! Two ice walls suddenly rose from the ground. The claws of the two magic beasts didn't hit Lulu, who was behind the ice walls. Instead, they smashed into the ice walls with a burst of sparks, creating two huge holes in the thick ice walls. Lulu's gaze was fixed on the two magic beasts in front of her. Her lips were still biting hard as she circulated the magic power in her body to the extreme. The ice-blue magic power was like a mist that wrapped around Lulu's body. Roar! Just as Lulu was about to end the battle cleanly, a loud roar echoed in the forest. Upon hearing the roar, Lulu sulked and lifted her head abruptly. On top of a huge tree in front of them, a huge black shadow was standing there, roaring angrily. It was a tiger-shaped demonic beast. To be exact, it should be described as a tiger-shaped demonic beast that walked on two legs like a human. The tiger-shaped demonic beast stood on a branch of the tree. It exuded an aura that was much stronger than all the other demonic beasts on the scene. The surrounding air rippled and split apart like waves. Lulu's face finally revealed a look of shock. That was actually a Class 7 demonic beast. Even though Lulu had advanced to Class 7, Lulu had only just advanced. She was level 60 and was the weakest among Class 7 demonic beasts. Even though this Class 7 demonic beast was also at level 60, it was generally impossible for humans to defeat demonic beasts of the same level due to its powerful physical capabilities and magical powers that were much stronger than humans of the same level. Furthermore, Lulu clearly sensed the aura emanating from the tiger-shaped demonic beast. This tiger-shaped demonic beast definitely wasn't just Class 7. It was at least Class 7 Intermediate. Roar! The tiger-shaped demonic beast abruptly roared and stomped its feet. The branches and trees under its feet were instantly crushed by the huge impact. The tiger-shaped demonic beast burst forward and stretched out its sharp claws, aiming for Lulu's heart without hesitation. Lulu didn't dare to be negligent. She hurriedly waved the staff in her hand, and a gust of cold air gushed in from all directions and condensed into a tiger-shaped demonic beast that was exactly the same as the tiger-shaped demonic beast. The Ice Tiger Man bent his claws, and a rich white magical power emerged on the sharp claws. Finally, all of the white magical power gathered on the sharp claws, and with traces of ice-cold air, he directly attacked the Tiger Man. Clang! In the sound of metal clashing, Lulu's ice tiger-shaped demonic beast trembled. In less than a second, the ice tiger-shaped demonic beast's claws shattered into pieces. Boom! In the end, even the Ice Tiger Man exploded into ice shards under the attack of the Tiger Man magical beast. The tiger-shaped demonic beast's claws continued to reach for Lulu. Swish! Just when Lulu's face was filled with horror and despair, an air-piercing sound suddenly resounded in the forest. A streak of light flitted past every demonic beast at the scene, including the tiger-shaped demonic beast. Poochie! Lulu only saw a blur in front of her eyes. Then, one by one, blood blossomed on the bodies of the demonic beasts. All the demonic beasts at the scene were slashed into two halves, including the Class 7 demonic beast that almost killed Lulu. Lulu didn't have time to react, and all the demonic beasts at the scene were slashed into two halves. Then, a young lady with a pair of pure white wings and a laser sword in her hand appeared in Lulu's vision. Although she couldn't understand what had happened, Lulu recognized this angelic girl. She immediately revealed a look of ecstasy, and the taut strings in her head loosened. Lulu's vision turned black, and she fell to the ground. Sister Lulu. This was the last sound Lulu heard before she lost consciousness. Chapter 1876. In an empty room, Wu Yin, Yukari, Hinajiku, Mikoto, Ikuros, Astria, and the others gathered together. They didn't say a word. Lulu was lying on the bed in the room. Beside the bed was Cannon, who was wearing a white blouse with red trimmings and a red pleated skirt. Her slender hand was raised about 10 centimeters away from Lulu's body, and there was a gentle glow emanating from it. Aside from Canon, Wu Yin and the other girls looked at Lulu. Lulu's pale face was covered in sweat, and she looked like she's having a nightmare. They couldn't help but feel an indescribable pain in their hearts. It must be noted that Lulu was a lively, cheerful, and playful girl. She could even play with Furan. She was naive, romantic, and a little natural. A girl like this, in the past, in front of Wu Yin and co., she would always act like a clown. She would always giggle and throw a tantrum. When has she ever laid on the bed with a pained expression on her face? Hinajiku and Mikoto, who were the closest to Lulu, couldn't help but bite their lips so hard that they almost bled. Astria couldn't bear to look at Lulu anymore. Even Yukari furrowed her brows. Even the other girls were in such a state. Wu Yin didn't know what to feel. Lulu is the first person Wu Yin met, and the first person he met in Silveria since he came to this world without any family or friends. Lulu's cheerful personality and the way she protected and cared for Wu Yin. Lulu's position in Wu Yan's heart was second only to the other girls. Wu Yin didn't say anything when he saw Lulu in such a state. His expression was as calm as an ancient well. She clenched her fists so tightly that her nails dug into her palms. Blood dripped out of her palms. In this heavy atmosphere, Canon's treatment continued in an orderly manner, until a certain moment, the gentle light on Canon's palm dimmed. Canon saw this. Chuju, Mikoto, and Astria perked up. Wu Yin asked in a hurry, "Canon, how are you?" I'm fine now." Canon smiled. She looked like a devout saint. She answered Wu Yan's question with a clear and gentle voice. "Actually, Lulu-san isn't injured at all." "Not injured?" Hinajiku, Mikoto, and Astria froze at the same time. "Not injured?" Wu Yin was also surprised by this. Then why did Lulu faint? Lulu-san fainted due to exhaustion of mana. She wasn't injured. Canon shook her head. "That's why she'll recover after resting for a while." Wu Yin and the other sighed in relief. Canon was a familiar with healing abilities. Apart from that, she also had a purifying ability. She didn't have any combat abilities at all. Vassal beasts were synonymous with destruction. It was hard to imagine a vassal beast without any fighting prowess. However, it was also because of this that Canon's purification and healing abilities were extraordinarily powerful. In addition, due to her purification and healing abilities, Canon also knew how to deal with foul energy, such as curses and the physical condition of the target she needed to heal. Since Canon said that Lulu was just exhausted and wasn't hurt, then that must be the case. There was no doubt about it. "Canon, thank you." Wu Yin rubbed Canon's head. "Thank goodness you're here. We wouldn't have known what to do otherwise. I'm glad I was able to help Sensei." Canon was a little shy as she enjoyed Wu Yan's pat. "Then, I'll be heading back." Wu Yin didn't object. He nodded and cut off the mana channeling to Canon. Her body turned into particles of light and disappeared from the scene. When Canon returned to Wu Yan's body, the girls looked at each other. Lack of stamina, too much mana, mental exhaustion. Mikoto used her finger to point at her cheeks, her eyebrows furrowed deeply. Why is Lulu so exhausted? Why did she use so much mana? Hinajika tilted her head and asked in confusion. "Isn't it because of the battle with the demonic beasts?" Lulu is a pure magus. Even if she used up a lot of mana fighting demonic beasts, there's no way she would use up all her stamina, Wu Yin said in a low voice. Besides, Canon also said that Lulu was too mentally exhausted. That's the main reason why she fainted. So, Lulu definitely didn't fall into a coma because she was fighting a magical beast. That's strange. Chuju seemed to have noticed the abnormality as well. Why did Lulu go to the Behemoth Forest? This is indeed a problem. Due to the existence of the Beast King, the Behemoth Forest is off-limits. Only the 3 empires have set up camps outside the Behemoth Forest are allowed to enter the Behemoth Forest to hunt. Lulu is a special student studying at the Spalier World Academy. Logically speaking, The camps wouldn't allow a talented student to hunt in the behemoth forest. It's too dangerous. Lulu is also the only daughter of the Ailu Empire's #1 family, the Lori family. Even if she wanted to enter the behemoth forest, there would be plenty of experts protecting her. Lulu's grandfather, the Thunder King, and father, Lars, might even be escorting her. At the very least, Fei would be there. But this time, Fei isn't by Lulu's side. Lulu even entered the dangerous behemoth forest alone. This doesn't make sense. Could it be because she encountered a high-level demonic beast? Mikoto pondered for a moment before saying, maybe because they encountered a high-level magic beast. The team that escorted Lulu was annihilated, and only Lulu escaped. That's hard to say, right? I can't say that it's impossible. Wu Yin rubbed his forehead. But first, we have to figure out why Lulu came to the behemoth forest. Everyone fell silent. Yukari spoke up. Isn't the reason obvious? The group of people turned their heads and looked at Z. Yukari. Wu Yin turned his attention to her. Do you know why Lulu came to the behemoth forest? You're all too concerned. That's why you didn't think. Yukari laughed and shook her head. Isn't the most likely reason for this girl to come to the giant beast forest to look for us? Find us. Realization dawned on everyone's faces. Find us. Only Wu Yan's frown deepened. Indeed, with the relationship between Lulu and Wu Yan's group, it's not surprising that she came here to look for them because she missed Wu Yan and the others. However, Wu Yan's intuition told him that Lulu didn't come here just because she wanted to see them. Yukari had her own considerations as well. She tapped her face with the paper fan in her hand and said thoughtfully, what we're more curious about is why this girl exhausted her stamina to the point that she fainted due to exhaustion. Because the team escorting him was wiped out, he exhausted all his stamina trying to escape. Also, because he was being chased by demonic beasts, his mental state was highly strained. In the end, when he saw Astria saving him, he let his guard down and fainted. Mikoto suggested, isn't that the case? Is that so? Violet said with a smile. She didn't deny it. That's right, but I think something important must have happened to this girl. She rushed all the way to the behemoth forest to look for us. That's why she fainted due to exhaustion. Everyone present shuddered at the thought of this. Lulu, who was lying on the bed, suddenly moaned. Her eyelids trembled, and she slowly opened her eyes. Lulu, Wu Yin, and the others were overjoyed. They rushed forward. Lulu also saw Wu Yin and company. Her eyes, which were still a bit unfocused, focused, and then they turned red. Tears flowed down her cheeks as she stood up and threw herself at Wu Yin. Yin, what's wrong? Wu Yin and the others were shocked. What happened? Yin. Lulu hugged Wu Yin tightly. She cried as if she was hugging a life-saving straw. She shouted at the top of her lungs. The Ailu Empire is about to be destroyed. Chapter 1877. Time returned to the morning. In the Spalier world, there was an academy. It was the only academy in the Spalier world. It was founded by the Ailu, Buruba, and Fea empires. Since the academy was established by the three empires, it was located in the middle of the three empires. It was close to the giant beast forest, which occupied a corner of the three empires' borders. This academy was called the Spalier World Academy. Every youngster in the Spalier world yearned to enroll in the Spalier World Academy. It wasn't just because Silveria World Institute was the only institute in the entire Silveria world, nor was it because it was founded by the three empires. It was because the geniuses from all over the world were gathered in this institute, and they grew together. In other words, as long as you entered the Spalier World Academy, you would be hailed as a genius no matter where you went, even if you were just a normal student. Everyone in the Spalier world knew that no matter if you were born in one of the three empires or one of the 9 great houses, you couldn't be called a true genius no matter how talented you were. Only the students of the Spalier World Academy could be called a true genius. In addition, the Spalier World Academy was provided with cultivation resources by the three empires. It was the cradle of geniuses in the world. It was a holy land for cultivation. No one didn't yearn to enroll in the Spalier World Academy. Unfortunately, only the true geniuses could enroll in the Spalier World Academy. Mediocre people didn't even have the right to step through the gates. Looking down from the sky, the Spalier World Academy looked like a city. It was surrounded by tall walls. The entire Spalier World Academy was surrounded. At the center of the academy, the arena tower towered into the clouds. It was a magnificent sight. In the academy, the students were only responsible for cultivation. The teachers were responsible for teaching and cooperating with the academy's enforcement team. They were responsible for the safety and management of the academy. For a place as important as the Spalier World Academy, naturally, there was no lack of guards at the door. If one looked closely, they would notice. On the surrounding walls of the academy, there would be a small hall located at every set distance. Those are the resting places of the academy's guards. At this moment, the guards were armed with their own armors and were fully equipped with equipment. Some of the warriors were even wearing armor. They were patrolling the perimeter wall with solemn expressions. Especially on the perimeter wall where the main gate of the academy was located, there were the most number of guards patrolling the perimeter wall. They were also the strongest. Every single one of them was at least at the beginning of the 7th stage. There were at least 100 of them. 107th stage powerhouses guarding the academy. With such a level of defense, even if any of the 9 super clans were to launch an attack, they would also be sent away in disgrace, right? In fact, no one had ever dared to attack the Spalier World Academy. After all, it was an academy created by the 3 great empires. The 3 great empires were the 3 powers that occupied the Spalier world. Unless they were tired of living, who would dare to attack? Even if they succeeded, the invaders wouldn't even have a place to stay. Unless they went out to sea, they wouldn't be able to survive in the world of Silveria. They would be nothing more than rats on the streets. Because of this, many guards on the wall seemed to be patrolling solemnly. But in fact, they were not nervous at all. Some of them even secretly yawned, looking bored. It cannot be said that they were not relaxed. At a certain moment, one of the guards who was looking into the distance was startled. He rubbed his eyes as if he couldn't believe what he saw. Far away from Silveria World Institute, the guard could see a cloud of dust rising from the horizon. It was slowly rising into the sky. The guard wasn't the only one who discovered this phenomenon. The other guards gradually discovered it as well. What is that? Is it fog? That's not fog, right? Could it be a sandstorm? How can it be a sandstorm in the Ailu Empire? Only the Baruba Empire has deserts. The guards on the walls started to clamor. Not long later, all of the guards gathered and looked at the dust rising from the horizon. After a long time, the sharp-eyed guards suddenly widened their eyes. They saw it. Below the cloud of dust, a large group of black figures was running madly. They were like cows running in the wild, kicking up clouds of dust. Roar! Ilwo! Woo! Not long after, the roars of wild beasts began to reverberate in the air, causing the atmosphere to be filled with the atmosphere of a storm. Only then did the guards reveal a look of horror. Rumble! The ground was already trembling, proving that the troops formed by the black shadows were not illusions, but real. Roar! Illo! Woo! The roar of the wild beast finally became clear. Not only did it reverberate into the ears of the guards, even some of the students in the academy could hear it. At the same time, the shadows also revealed their true faces. They were actually demonic beasts. Impossible! The guards cried out in unison. Demonic beasts only appear in the behemoth forest. They only move around in the behemoth forest. Why would they appear outside the behemoth forest? Why would they come to the Spalier World Academy? This was absolutely impossible. Even if the demonic beasts rushed out of the behemoth forest like the time when the Beast King was born, there were still camps set up by the 3 empires outside the behemoth forest. The elite members of the 3 empires and the 9 great families were there. It was impossible for the demonic beasts to rush out. However, the tremors on the ground, the tension in the air, and the magical beast army that was getting closer and closer to the point where they could even feel their auras told the guards that something was wrong. Everything in front of them was real. Quick, one of the guards roared. Inform the higher-ups of the academy and the elders of the academy council. It was a pity. It was too late. Roar. Illo. Woo. Amidst the roars of the demonic beasts, the demonic beast army came into contact with the walls of the academy. Boom! An earth-shattering sound reverberated through the sky of the academy, causing the ground and buildings of the entire academy to tremble. What happened? In a villa of a special student, there was a rare moment of excitement. Lulu, who was about to cultivate, was shocked by the sudden loud sound and vibration. She quickly rushed out of the villa. However, the scene that appeared in front of Lulu made Lulu completely stunned. It was as if the end of the world. It was a scene of despair. Roar. Illo. Woo. Numerous gigantic magical beasts were swarming over from all directions. They roared and destroyed the buildings in the academy. Help! No! Some of the weaker students were running for their lives. The lucky ones were still running for their lives. The unlucky ones were already caught by the demonic beasts. Go! Kill them! The rather powerful students had already gathered together and formed a battle line. Amidst the angry shouts, they fought against the magical beasts one after another. However, there were too many demonic beasts. There were so many of them that the students in the academy could not compete with them. Even if they formed a battle line, the battle line was constantly shrinking and retreating. For a moment, the roars of the demonic beasts, the screams of the students, and the angry shouts of the people who were fighting against the demonic beasts echoed in the academy. What happened? Lulu's delicate body trembled. Her beautiful face was pale. What happened? What happened? Wasn't it obvious? The demonic beasts attacked the academy. But it was such an obvious fact, because it was too surreal, not to mention Lulu. Even those who were fighting the demonic beasts could not accept it. Lulu. At this moment, Fei, who was holding her beloved sword, appeared beside Lulu and grabbed her hand. Are you okay? Fei. Lulu looked like she was saved. She grabbed Fei's hand tightly, her voice trembling. What's going on? Fei opened her mouth to say something. But before she could say anything, a figure flashed through the air and landed in front of them. Grandfather, old clan leader. It was the Lightning King. Let's cut the crap. The Thunder Sovereign's expression was rather unsightly as he spoke in an unquestionable tone. No one knows the real reason, but I must tell you that not only this academy, every city in the Ailu Empire is being invaded by demonic beasts. If this continues, the Ailu Empire will be destroyed sooner or later. Fei and Lulu's expressions changed. Right now, we have to deal with the enemy in front of us. Fei, come with me. The Lightning King shouted without turning his head. Lulu, hurry to the behemoth forest and find that little guy. We need his strength. Grandfather, go. In the next moment, the Lightning King, Fei, and Lulu's voices were drowned out by the demonic beast's roars. Chapter 1878. Silence, an indescribable silence, a deathly stillness seemed to have merged with the air, filling every corner of the room, making it difficult to breathe. In the entire room, only Lulu's sobbing could be heard. She had just explained the whole thing from beginning to end. Other than Lulu, everyone else was silent. Now, Lulu had brought 3 pieces of information to everyone. 1. Due to unknown reasons, demonic beasts attacked the Spalier World Academy. 2. Due to the demonic beast attack, Lei Wang, Fei, and the Academy students were fighting back. Their current situation is unknown. 3. The demonic beast didn't just attack the Spalier World Academy. From Lei Wang's words, every city in Ailu Empire was attacked by demonic beasts. Based on these 3 pieces of information, many guesses began to surface. First of all, even though they didn't know the current situation, they could guess. Even if the situation wasn't that bad, it was at least an emergency. Otherwise, Lei Wang wouldn't have sent Lulu alone into the demonic beast base to search for Wu Yin and the others. Secondly, since the demonic beasts had rushed out of the behemoth forest and attacked the cities in Ailu Empire, then the behemoth forest base must be in a bad situation. After all, the behemoth forest base was built right outside the behemoth forest. If the demonic beasts wanted to attack the cities in Ailu Empire, they would have to rush out of the behemoth forest and pass through the behemoth forest base to enter Ailu Empire's borders. Now that the demonic beasts had started to attack the cities in Ailu Empire, it was obvious that the behemoth forest base was in danger. Even the supply town might have been destroyed. No matter how one looked at it, the situation had reached a critical point. But soon, more and more questions appeared in everyone's mind. Why did the demonic beasts rush out of the behemoth forest? Why did they attack Ailu Empire? Of course, it was just a question. However, he believed that many people who were in the know could guess the answer to this question. Is it the Beast King? Chuju took a deep breath. One could even faintly hear the sound of him gnashing his teeth. Other than the Beast King, no one can break the rules of the magical beasts and make them rush out of their own territory. In other words, the Beast King, who had been hiding in the behemoth forest to recuperate, has fully recovered from his injuries? Makoto clenched her fist and said angrily, "Could it be that he wants to take revenge for what happened before? Then why didn't they come to us?" Ever since the Beast King had become a demigod, he had only appeared twice. The first time, it was Violet who had severely injured him. The second time, it was Wei Yin who had used Violet's ruby mode to almost kill the Beast King. If the Beast King had to say who he hated the most, it wouldn't be the humans of the Spalier world who treated the magical beasts as prey, but Wu Yin and Violet. Since the Beast King had attacked Ailu Empire, there was no way he wouldn't go after Wu Yan's group. Compared to the outside world of the Behemoth Forest, the Behemoth Forest capital of Otherworld should be the first to be attacked by the Beast King and his magical beasts. No matter what, the capital of Otherworld is located in the Behemoth Forest, in the enemy's main camp. I'm afraid it's not that the Beast King doesn't want to bother us. It's just that he hasn't found us yet. Wu Yan's tone was unexpectedly calm. Even if it's him, he wouldn't be able to guess that we're in his territory and have set up a base. Violet's barrier also provides us with concealment. Normal people wouldn't be able to detect the capital of Otherworld from the outside. That's why the Beast King didn't attack us first. A blind spot? Mikoto agreed with Kieran's statement. She seemed a little frustrated. If I knew this would happen, I would have left a way to communicate with the outside world. When the capital of Otherworld was built, Wu Yan's group didn't want to have anything to do with the camp. They didn't want to cause too much trouble. That's why they only told Sylph, Fei Fei, Lulu, and a few others about the location of the capital of Otherworld. They cut off all contact with the outside world. Originally, this consideration was not without reason. In the entire Silveria world, within the 3 empires and the 9 great clans, there were only a dozen or so Type 9 powerhouses. As for the demigod realm, there were only 5 of them. On Wu Yan's side, Chuju, Mikoto, Ikaros, and Astria are all Tier 9 powerhouses. Ikaros and Astria, who can use Pandora mode, are considered rare, even among Tier 9 powerhouses. Wu Yin, who's at the pinnacle of Tier 9, and Violet, who's at the demigod level. They have enough power to rival any of the 3 empires. Not to mention the 20,000 Misaka sisters who are at least Tier 7 and the girls who are still in the process of transforming. If Wu Yin wants to gain a foothold in the Spalier world, they're more than enough. It's a pity that Wu Yin doesn't have the ambition to conquer the world. He just wants to live a peaceful life with his summons. Even the capital of Otherworldly was built to give his sisters a place to settle down. Even if Wu Yin doesn't have any ambition, there are bound to be people in the Spalier world who are on tenterhooks because of Wu Yan's group. In order to avoid causing too much trouble and disputes, it wasn't entirely unnecessary for them to conceal themselves. But now there's a drawback. It's hard for news from the outside world to reach the capital of Otherworldly. Otherwise, there's no way Wu Yan's group wouldn't be in the dark. Yan, what should we do now? Lulu's eyes revealed a hint of excitement. Grandpa and Fei are fighting against the demonic beasts at the academy. I don't know how Dad is doing. Everyone must be in danger. We have to save them. There's no need to call for help anymore. Violet shook her head and said, according to what you said, the demonic beast attack started in the morning. You only arrived at the behemoth forest at night. In addition to the time you were unconscious, it's almost dawn now. One whole day is enough for them to successfully resist the demonic beasts, retreat, or die. In other words, the Thunderlord and Fei have either repelled the demonic beasts and are safe and sound, or they were defeated by the demonic beasts and have retreated. Otherwise, they died in the academy. No matter how you look at it, there's no need to rescue them now. Then what should we do? Lulu waved her hands helplessly. Grandpa said that he needs your strength now. Lulu, calm down first. Wu Yin patted Lulu's shoulder and looked at Violet. Violet, what do you think we should do? You should be asking, what do you think we should do? Yukari asked Wu Yin back with a question. The behemoth forest is in the middle of the three empires. If the demonic beasts attack the Ailu Empire, the Baruba Empire and Fea Empire would be attacked as well. In other words, the entire world is under attack by the demonic beasts. Do you only want to save the people you know? Or save the entire Ailu Empire? Or save the entire Spalier world? Wu Yin was speechless. He admitted that he wasn't so noble as to save the entire world. However, he still wanted to save the people he knew. However, the people Wu Yin wanted to save would definitely not allow the Spalier world to fall into the hands of the demonic beasts. They would definitely fight back. When that happens, Wu Yin's group would be dragged into the mess. That's why Violet was asking Wu Yin if he wanted to be dragged into this mess or take the initiative to solve this crisis. Or he could just stay out of this mess. The girls seemed to understand Violet's meaning. They all looked at Wu Yin. Other than Lulu, who was looking forward to it, Chuju, Mikoto, Ikaros, and Astria all expressed one thing. That is, no matter what Wu Yin chooses, the girls will stay by his side. Wu Yin felt warmth in his heart. He looked at Violet. When Wu Yin was about to make a decision, Violet's calm expression froze for a moment before a smile appeared on her face. It seems like they don't intend to give us a choice. Chapter 1879. At the same time, in one of the open spaces in the behemoth forest, a scene like this was playing out around this desolate open space. In the trees and bushes, pairs of scarlet and green eyes suddenly flashed one after another. They were like wild wolves lying in ambush in the bushes, waiting for an opportunity to strike, causing the air to be filled with a dangerous aura. Ooh! In the sky, the sound of wings flapping could be heard. Along with the sound of the wind, it reverberated in the area. Following that, huge black shadows approached from all directions, as if they were surrounding something. They gradually attacked the empty space. Looking carefully, it was actually a huge wild bird flying in the sky. Birds with the appearance of dragons and birds, giant pythons with wings, fluffy lions with eagle wings, and lone wolves without wings, etc., etc. All of them were magical beasts that could fly. The entire open space was filled with these huge, flying magical beasts, slowly surrounding the entire open space, causing shadows to appear in the sky and on the ground. Almost at the same time, when the flying magical beasts surrounded this open space, in the trees and bushes around the open space, the owners of the scarlet and green eyes slowly revealed their true forms. Of course, they were all magical beasts. These magical beasts did not have a fixed group, and their appearances were all different, almost all of them. Their numbers were densely packed, numbering in the tens of thousands. Furthermore, they seemed to have locked onto some sort of prey. They did not roar or charge forward, but were slowly surrounding the empty space. Just looking at this scene would cause one to be terrified. If it was just this, then it would be fine, but the most frightening thing was the size of these magical beasts could only be described as covering the sky and the sun. Their height was comparable to a building, and with the densely packed numbers and various appearances, anyone who saw it would tremble. After all, among these magical beasts, there are also some dragons. Of course, These were not real dragons, but magical beasts that only had the appearance of dragons. These magical beasts that had the appearance of dragons were mainly divided into two types. One type was dragons with wings, like the Western lizard dragon. Their colors were green, red, silver, black, and even gold. Together with other magical beasts, they surrounded the open space in the sky. The other type was naturally the wingless dragons. They had the appearance of dinosaurs, stegosauruses, tyrannosauruses, and other dragon-shaped magical beasts. Together with the magical beasts that couldn't fly, they surrounded the open space on the ground. If someone were to identify these magical beasts, they would be horrified to find out. Among the magical beasts that surrounded this open space, regardless of whether it was the flying magical beast in the sky or on the ground, the weakest one was a rank 7 magical beast. In other words, there were at least 10,000 rank 7 magical beasts here. As for the rank 8 magical beasts, if there were not 1,000 of them, there were at least hundreds of them. 10,000 rank 7 magical beasts. Hundreds of them, 8 magical beasts. Who could stop such a magical beast army? Even if the Ailu Empire's strongest knight regiment came, their chances of victory wouldn't be higher than 30%. However, the most terrifying of all were the dozen or so magical beasts that occupied the front of the magical beast army, as if they were the leaders of the magical beasts. These magical beasts were all rank 9 magical beasts. Under the lead of the dozen or so class 9 magical beasts, this terrifying army of magical beasts slowly surrounded the empty space. They only stopped when they were 100 meters away from the empty space. Then, the magical beasts that surrounded the open space suddenly parted to form a path. A figure slowly emerged from the path and walked to the front of the magical beast army. It was a person, a man in his 20s with a devilish appearance. His body was wrapped in clothes made of animal skin, his entire body exuding a murderous aura that made people tremble. The moment the devilish man appeared, the magical beasts in the sky and on the ground lowered their heads as if they were worshipping him. However, the devilish man did not even spare them a glance. A pair of beast-like eyes stared at the open space below. A cold glint flashed in his eyes. So that's how it is. Hiding here? After finishing his sentence, a violent magical power surged from the devilish man's body. However, this magical power seemed to be possessed by a vengeful spirit. It was like a black fog that seemed to contain a demon's roar. It gave off a feeling of ruthlessness and negative emotions when one looked at it. The magical beasts that were closer to the devilish man began to let out low growls of fear. The devilish man ignored them completely. The corners of his mouth curled into a cold arc. A cruel glint flashed in his eyes as he looked at the open space below. They don't intend to give us a choice? As soon as Purple said this, everyone present was stunned. Boom! Before they could react, a terrifying force suddenly descended from the sky and landed on the enchanted field that enveloped the capital of a different era. The enchanted field of the capital of a different era emerged abruptly and flickered with a rich radiance. The Misaka sisters were doing their own things on the street, all raised their heads expressionlessly and looked at the thin film-like barrier that appeared above them. What's going on? Wu Yin and the others who were still in the room were shocked. Violet closed her paper fan and looked out of the window. Boom! Another terrifying force descended and slammed into the barrier of the capital of a different era. This time, the entire barrier trembled as if it could not bear the burden. A part of it even cracked, allowing the residual force that surged in through the cracks to take effect. The entire capital of a different era trembled violently, as if it was hit by a magnitude 10 earthquake. Ah! Lulu screamed and almost fell to the ground. Ikaro stepped forward and caught Lulu in time. What's wrong? What's wrong? Astria was a little flustered. Barrier. Hinajiku, Mikoto, and Yukari raised their heads and looked outside the window. When they saw the cracked barrier, they froze on the spot. The enchanted field cracked? Wu Yin didn't look out of the window, but his expression turned ugly. Someone's attacking this place. Boom! Just as his voice fell, the third attack also arrived. Compared to the previous two attacks, this attack was even more terrifying and heavily fell on the crack barrier, causing the barrier to shake violently. Kacha! 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 Finally, on the barrier, such a voice could not help but reverberate. The barrier couldn't withstand the third attack. It couldn't withstand it any longer. Boom! Amidst the sound of glass shattering, the barrier that covered the entire capital of a different era completely crumbled and shattered. Everyone in the capital of a different era, including the Misaka sisters, finally saw what happened. The sky above the capital of a different era was filled with an army of demonic beasts. They roared at the ground. Roar! 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 The roars of the demonic beasts reverberated throughout the capital of a different era. Wu Yin and the 20,000 Misaka sisters knew what kind of enemy they were facing. Through the window, Hinajiku and Lulu's expressions changed drastically as they saw the army of flying magical beasts covering the sky. Makoto even cried out in fear. Not good. Sisters. No, it's not just the sisters. Everyone here, no matter if they're in the buildings or on the streets, is within the attack range of the flying demonic beasts. As long as the flying demonic beasts release a long-range attack, the capital of a different era will definitely be destroyed, and the Misaka sisters won't be able to escape unscathed. Makoto, Chuju, Ikaros, Astria. Wu Yin suppressed his anger and yelled at the four girls. Go and gather all the sisters. Makoto, Chuju, Ikaros, and Astria knew that this wasn't the time to hesitate. They rushed out of the room without any hesitation. Ikaros even brought along Lulu. At this moment, a loud voice echoed in the sky above the capital of a different era. Wu Yin, Yakumo Yukari, come out. Chapter 1880. Wu Yin, Yakumo Yukari, come out. Her voice reverberated through the air. Not only did it reach Wu Yin and Yukari's ears, it also reached Hinajiku, Makoto, Ikaros, Astria, and Lulu, who rushed into the street to gather the Misaka sisters. Chuju, Makoto, Ikaros, and Astria have heard this voice before. It's the Beast King's voice. I knew it. Chuju gritted her teeth. It's the Beast King. He's looking for Master and Yukari Nei-san. Astria started to get anxious. Chuju Nei-san, Makoto Nei-san, Ikaro Senpai. Shouldn't we go help Master and Yukari? Wait a little longer. Makoto's face was full of struggle, but in the end she still chose to look at the bigger picture. Let's gather the sisters first. This way, we'll have an advantage whether we fight or retreat. With Yukari and Yan's ruby mode, we'll be fine. Chuju and Astria hesitated for a moment before nodding. Lulu couldn't make the decision, so she followed the girls. Only Ikaros turned her head and looked at the sky. Master, on the other side, Wu Yin and Yukari, who were still in the room, also recognized the owner of this voice. They exchanged glances with each other. Be careful. Yukari nodded as if she knew what Wu Yin was thinking. If the Beast King dares to come looking for us, he must have the confidence to defeat us. Since we don't know what the Beast King has up his sleeves, we need to buy as much time as we can. Wu Yin nodded. He looked at the sky filled with flying demonic beasts. A golden light flashed in his eyes. In the sky, all kinds of flying magical beasts flapped their wings as they let out low roars. There were at least hundreds and thousands of magical beasts densely packed in the sky. It was truly a scene that made people tremble from the bottom of their hearts. Outside the fortress-like sturdy walls of the capital of alternate generations, there were a shocking number of various magical beasts on the ground. In front of the capital of alternate generations, there are more than a dozen gigantic demonic beasts. These demonic beasts are all rank 9 demonic beasts that have lived for God knows how long. In front of this group of demonic beasts, there's a human standing in the air. It's a demonic man. A dark golden fur robe made of beast skin fluttered in the wind. His body emitted an aura that made people's hearts palpitate. The bewitching man coldly looked down at the Misaka sisters who were methodically gathering in one place. He didn't make a move and just quietly floated in the air. Not long after, a pitch-black crack filled with ferocious eyeballs appeared not far from the bewitching man. Wu Yin and Yukari walked out from the crack, and they were surrounded by the flying demonic beasts in the sky. Roar! 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 The army of flying demonic beasts that surrounded Wu Yin and Yukari let out roars that were strong enough to form airwaves. However, Wu Yin and Yukari ignored these demonic beasts that were bluffing. They shifted their gazes to the demonic man opposite them. At the same time, a stream of light flashed in their eyes from the system's perception. Beast King. When a system sent this message to Wu Yin and Yukari, they were stunned. What does this mean? Could it be that the Beast King's strength has broken through to the point where even the system can't sense it? Wu Yin aside, even Yukari couldn't come up with an answer to this question. She didn't have the time to find out. This was because when the Beast King saw the two of them appear at the same time, a ferocious glint flashed in his eyes, and he sneered. We finally meet again. The two of you. I wonder if the gifts I gave you are to your liking? Gifts? Wu Yin narrowed his eyes slightly. Gifts? Yukari smiled. Even in the face of tens of thousands of flying demonic beasts, her expression remained unchanged. Are you referring to the entire world being attacked by you? Or are you referring to breaking a barrier here? All of these are just a prelude. The Beast King looked directly at the young lady who had defeated him effortlessly. Since I have shown myself once again, the entire world should be under my control. The beast race should be spread across every corner of this world. Humans are nothing but food for us demonic beasts. Wu Yin couldn't help but laugh when he heard that. His laugh was filled with disdain. Do you think you have humans under your control? Why can't I think so? The Beast King waved his hand. The demonic beasts behind him all roared in unison, their voices deafening to the ears. Compared to us demonic beasts, how are the humans superior? Humans have 9th grade demonic beasts, but so do we. The humans have Class 8 powerhouses, but the beasts also have Class 8 magical beasts, and they have far more than the humans. In terms of numbers, we demonic beasts may have been holed up in this forest for a long time, but our reproductive ability is strong, and our numbers are no less than that of humans. In terms of strength, demonic beasts are born with strong physique and magic power. Compared to humans of the same level, demonic beasts have an absolute advantage. That is why I can attack all 3 empires of the Spalier world at the same time. In just one day, we demonic beasts have conquered 1/3 of the Ailu Empire, 1/3 of the Baruba Empire, and 1/3 of the Fea Empire. It won't be long before the human world, the continent of Silveria, falls under the control of us magical beasts. The Beast King clenched his fist. A victorious smile appeared on his face. Tell me, why wouldn't I think I have the humans under my control? Yes. Demonic beasts are generally stronger than humans in terms of both numbers and strength. The 3 empires and the 9 great clans only have a dozen 9th grade demonic beasts. Even if the other 9th grade demonic beasts are included, the total number won't exceed 30. Demonic beasts have a long lifespan. Those that have lived for a very long time are all 9th grade demonic beasts. Disregarding the others, when the Beast King was born, there were a dozen 9th grade demonic beasts guarding him. In addition to the other demonic beasts scattered around, there are at least 50 9th grade demonic beasts. Demonic beasts can't even compare to 9th grade demonic beasts, let alone 7th and 8th grade demonic beasts. With their reproductive ability, there are definitely more demonic beasts than humans. As for the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade demonic beasts, there are so many of them that it's impossible to count them all. Thus, if one were to compare the demonic beasts with the humans, the demonic beasts would generally win. But, you've forgotten, a true omnipotent can control everything. Wu Yin continued. Humans have 5 demigods, but the demonic beasts only have you. As long as you are defeated, no matter how much advantage the demonic beasts have, They will all be chased back to the behemoth forest. Hearing this, the Beast King lowered his head. Just when Wu Yin thought he was going to get angry, he laughed like a madman. Ha ha. Wu Yan's expression turned cold. What are you laughing at? What am I laughing at? The Beast King laughed heartily as he clapped his hands. I'm laughing at the fact that you're absolutely right. As soon as he finished speaking, the Beast King's aura suddenly surged like a violent volcano, stirring up a storm. Boom! The ferocious shock wave swept out in all directions, pushing the flying magical beasts around the Beast King a distance away. The flying magical beasts all bowed down to the Beast King as they let out low growls. Under that terrifying aura, the Beast King's aura continued to rise from the demigod rank. It easily surpassed the Beast King's previous strength and continued to climb. Wu Yan's expression changed. Even Violet's expression turned grave. There was no other reason. The Beast King's aura continued to surpass Violet's. In Wu Yan and Violet's senses, it even surpassed the strength of the delicate fragrance Feng Jian in their memories. Even so, the Beast King's aura did not stop. In the end, it surpassed the peak of the demigod rank and continued to climb. The terrifying aura that far surpassed the peak of the demigod rank caused the air to become chaotic. The space also trembled. Wu Yan and Violet felt as if their bodies were filled with lead. It was so heavy that they almost bent over. This fact made Wu Yan and Violet hold their breath. Surpassed the peak of the demigod rank? Then wouldn't that be? You're right. A true powerhouse can control everything. The Beast King's voice reverberated in the sky. And I, who have become a god-rank powerhouse, will be the only powerhouse in this world. Chapter 1881. Just like the calm before the storm, the Beast King's terrifying aura was like a volcanic eruption, and the magical beasts all let out excited and fearful roars. Wu Yin and Yukari, who didn't show any change in expression when facing such a terrifying demonic beast army. Now, not only did their expressions change, even their hearts started to churn like raging waves. Divine-level fighter? The Beast King has become a divine-level fighter? Is that possible? Wu Yin did not want to believe this possibility. After all, if one wanted to become a divine-level expert, one must first reach the peak of the demigod realm. Secondly, one must find divine energy, absorb it, and borrow the divine energy to transform. Only then could one become a true divine-level expert. The Beast King had just broken through the demigod realm and became a newbie among the demigods. Now, it had only been half a year since the Beast King was born and met Wu Yin in the behemoth forest. In half a year, the Beast King rose from the demigod realm to the peak of the demigod realm? That was absolutely impossible. Moreover, even if the Beast King had used some shortcut to reach the peak of the demigod realm, it was impossible for him to become a divine-level fighter. The divine power that could allow a peak demigod fighter to reach the divine level had disappeared along with the disappearance of the only mythical armament in the Spalier world. Because of this, the Spalier world had never produced a fifth divine-level fighter other than Silveria, Ailu, Balba, and Phil. Without the divine power, how could the Beast King become a divine-level fighter? However, the Beast King's aura had surpassed the peak of the demigod realm and reached a level that was impossible for a demigod realm fighter. Feeling the Beast King's aura that was as strong as a mountain, Wu Yan's heart sank. At this moment, Purple spoke with a serious expression. You should know just how many impossible elements were involved in what he said. I know. You won't believe me. The Beast King didn't retract his aura and smiled calmly. It can't be helped. Only after reaching the peak of the demigod level can a life form begin to contain the power of divinity. By absorbing the power of the gods, together with his body began to change. The barrier to the demigod realm would begin to melt, and at that time, peak demigod powerhouses could attempt to break through. Once you succeed, you could become a god. As for me, since I'm not at the peak of the demigod stage, it's impossible for me to possess the divine power that has already disappeared. In that case, I definitely can advance to the divine level. If I hadn't found some other substitutes. Substitute? Wu Yin and Yukari were shocked. They stared at the Beast King. Since you two defeated me mercilessly, I'll tell you. The Beast King glanced at Wu Yin and Yukari. A secret belonging to the deities. The Beast King slowly retracted his aura so that Wu Yin and Yukari were no longer suppressed. However, their hearts were still heavy. Under such circumstances, the Beast King spoke. You should know why the power of divinity disappeared, right? Because of the war of the gods, Wu Yin replied. Yukari hadn't heard of the secrets of the deities with him. The power of divinity was born from the only mythical armament in this world. The mythical armament could bring an unimaginable increase in power to the deities. Therefore, in order to fight for the mythical armament and the power of divinity, the four deities fought a war. In the end, the mythical armament disappeared along with it. That's right. The Beast King's tone didn't contain any praise. Then, why did the mythical armament disappear? Wu Yin was stunned. He really hadn't considered this question seriously. Who knew how many years ago this matter wasn't even recorded in history? How could we know? Perhaps seeing through Wu Yan's thoughts, the Beast King curled his lips and smiled. Then let's change the question. How did the four deities die? Wu Yin and Yukari exchanged a glance. With just a glance, they understood each other's meaning. Wu Yin was talking to the Beast King, while Yukari tried to find some flaws in the conversation. Wu Yin retracted his gaze and answered as if nothing had happened. Wasn't it because they perished together in the process of fighting? Indeed, that's the most likely reason. Although he said so, the Beast King shook his head. But unfortunately, I want to tell you that the deities didn't die in the battle. They died in their own hands. Died in their own hands? Yukari narrowed her eyes. Died in their own hands? Wu Yin frowned tightly. What's going on? The Beast King sneered as if he didn't care about the four deities. He slowly revealed a secret that no one in the Spalier world knew. There was no limit to human greed. The battle of the gods between the four divine-level experts had started because of greed. Since the power of God could allow experts at the peak of the demigod level to obtain the opportunity to break through to the divine level, one of the four divine spirits became greedy and attempted to seize the power of God to cultivate a divine-level expert for his own faction. Because of this, the other three deities couldn't stand by and watch all the deities being born in other factions. Naturally, they couldn't avoid conflict. In the end, the conflict even involved the only deity without a faction. In order to fight for the ownership of the divine power, the four deities broke out into a battle. Thus, the existence and secret of the mythical armament were dug out. From Kite, Wu Yin learned that the battle lasted for an unknown period of time. In the end, after it ended, all four deities fell and the only mythical armament disappeared. However, how did they fall and how did they disappear? Even the five demigods didn't know, let alone Kite. However, at this moment, the Beast King revealed this secret. Actually, in that war of the gods, the only mythical armament was destroyed during the chaotic battle of the four gods. Destroyed? Yukari was stunned. Wu Yin was even more shocked. The mythical armament was destroyed? Is it strange? The Beast King sneered. After all, the mythical armament is just a natural weapon. If it was attacked by four deities at the same time, it's not impossible for it to be destroyed, right? How could the four deities fall? Wu Yin refuted. If the source of a dispute, the mythical armament, was destroyed, then the four deities didn't have to continue fighting, right? That's why I said that the four deities didn't die in the battle at all. The Beast King threw out such a sentence impatiently. However, humans are indeed despicable creatures, and so are the deities. Their crazy ambition is the reason for the fall of the four deities. Ambition. That's right. That's right. The Beast King sneered. Unwilling to accept the destruction of the mythical armament, unwilling to accept the disappearance of the power of God and the fact that Silveria could no longer produce a divine-level expert, the four gods brought back the fragments of the destroyed mythical armament in an attempt to research the power of God and the manufacturing method of the mythical armament. In the end, the Beast King smiled disdainfully. It's this kind of ambition that brought them to the end of the mythical armament. You mean? Wu Yin said uncertainly. They failed? No. To a certain extent, they succeeded. The Beast King denied it. However, what they studied was not the divine power and the manufacturing method of the mythical armament. Instead, it was a byproduct that could help people break through the current level and improve their strength by chance. It's also because of this byproduct. The Beast King slowly raised his hand. That's why I am now. As these words came out of the Beast King's mouth, an indescribable aura suddenly rose from the Beast King's body. What kind of aura was that? Cold, decay, insidious, corrosion. All the negative words that could be used to describe bad things could be used to describe it. Under the influence of this dark aura, the Beast King slowly raised his hand, and a black, clump-like object actually rose up into the air. It was a black fog, and in the black fog, there were traces of disgusting black light that looked like rotten insects twisting their bodies. Looking at the black fog and black light, Wu Yin and Yukari's face suddenly changed. Weren't the black fog and black light the things that could turn people into monsters? Chapter 1882. Once upon a time, Marcus from the second family of the Saito family had absorbed a strange black light. Although he borrowed the power of the black light to reach the Type 9 Divine Warrior realm, his appearance had turned into a monster that was neither human nor ghost. In the end, he died without a complete corpse. The black light that escaped from Marcus' body returned to the Saito family's base. It possessed the second young master of the Saito family, Bing Mian. In the end, Wu Yin chased the Saito family's base and destroyed both the black light and Bing Mian. Not only that, but the strange black light also appeared in large numbers and wreaked havoc in the giant beast forest. Many people died in the giant beast forest camp, and many magic beasts were also affected. In the end, many of them died with grievances. Wu Yin had a Karos and Astria investigate the behemoth forest. In the end, he released cannon to eliminate the black light that wreaked havoc in the behemoth forest. How could Wu Yin not recognize the black light that can increase the power of the possessor, but at the same time turn the possessor into a monster? Yukari was the same. Don't forget that Violet personally came to the giant beast forest to search for this black light. She even met up with 5 demigods from Silveria. It's impossible for her not to recognize this black light. I thought you two forgot about this. The Beast King revealed a sinister smile when he saw Wu Yin and Yukari's expressions change. You forgot about the power of a false god. False god. Wu Yan's expression darkened. Disgusting thing. Is this the power of a god created by the 4 great gods by researching the fragments of mythical armaments? Is this the substitute you speak of? That's right. The Beast King fiercely clenched his fist, and the black light and black fog were immediately absorbed into the Beast King's body. This is the byproduct of the power of divinity that the 4 great gods developed by chance. I think all of you have already seen its effects. This pseudo-god power can unconditionally increase the power of the user. Its effects are even more pleasing than the power of divinity that can only give a peak demigod a chance to advance to the divine level. Better? Unconditionally? Wu Yin couldn't help but mock him. Indeed, it can increase the power of the possessed. However, it can also turn the possessed into a monster. From the looks of it, it can also affect the possessed emotions. You call this unconditionally? Compared to the increase in power, what's the big deal about the body turning into a monster? The Beast King laughed mockingly. Let's talk about it later. Demonic beasts are monsters in your hearts as well. Wu Yin didn't know what to say. The Beast King was right. For humans, this was the case. Demonic beasts are monsters. However, compared to the monsters possessed by the black light, demonic beasts are more adorable. You reach the celestial rank by absorbing this so-called power of a false god. Yukari looked at the Beast King and finally spoke. Is this so-called power of a false god really that powerful? Could it allow someone who had just entered the demigod level to skip a level and directly advance to the divine level? One or two is naturally impossible. The Beast King laughed out loud. His laughter was filled with madness. But I absorb hundreds of billions of rays of the power of a false god. I finally achieved this impossible miracle and became a celestial. Go! Wu Yin inhaled a breath of cold air. Hundreds of billions of rays of black light. To be more precise, it's all the power of a false god created by the four great gods. The Beast King did not hide his joy. You don't know this, but back then, as soon as the power of the false gods was created, the four gods used it on a group of people. As a result, those people all turned into monsters. Some of them even lost their minds and attacked their own people. When the four gods discovered this drawback, more than half of the people in the three forces established by the three gods, which are the three empires today, had already been devoured by the black light of the fake god's power, turning them into complete monsters that only know how to kill. The four great gods realized that if this continued, let alone the three great empires, even the entire Spalier world would be harmed by the power of a false god. It would become a world of monsters. Therefore, the four great gods could only kill those who had become monsters. In order to prevent the power of a false god from harming the entire Spalier world, the four great gods chose to seal all the power of a false god into their own bodies. They used their own divine power to suppress the power of a false god. At this point, the Beast King's tone became regretful. In the end, the bodies of the four great gods were corroded by the false god's power, and their vitality was completely devoured. The god-level powerhouses who should have lived as long as heaven and earth died because of the disaster and ambition that they created. They used up their last bit of strength and turned their bodies into a seal, suppressing the false god's power in their bodies in a sealed place. And the place where the power of a false god was sealed is the behemoth forest. The Beast King spread his hands as if he was very lucky. Very lucky. I found a small part of the power of a false god in the bodies of some of my kin who had turned into monsters. By absorbing the power of a false god, I was able to obtain this secret memory. From there, I found the place where the power of a false god was sealed. I absorbed all the power of a false god and became a celestial. Listening to the Beast King's loud shout, as if he was announcing his own birth to the entire world, Wu Yin and Yukari both fell silent. Wu Yin finally understood why the Ailu Empire's god left behind an image in the land of gods that said he was the cause of the calamity. He also understood why the god said he was lying to himself and the people around him. It was because the power of a false god that caused the disaster was created by the four great gods themselves. In other words, it was the four great gods who brought the disaster to the entire Spalier world. They were unwilling to accept the disappearance of the mythical armament, unwilling to accept the disappearance of the power of a celestial, unwilling to accept the fact that a celestial could never be born again, unwilling to accept the fact that they had fought until the end and gained nothing. In the end, the four great gods could only use their own lives to make up for the disaster they brought upon themselves. They also left behind a seed of disaster for their descendants. It was really sad. Yukari also seemed to be a little sad that the four great gods of the Spalier world had disappeared in this way. She shook her head. Since the four great gods used their lives to create the seal, why did the power of a false god break out of the seal? Although there is no record of this secret in history, the power of a false god did endanger the entire Spalier world. It almost caused the destruction of the entire Spalier world. Even if the four great gods tried to hide the truth, it was impossible for them to hide everything. The Beast King sneered. Back then, some of the survivors of the disaster tried their best to find the truth. Finally, they found a clue and found the location of the seal. They spent a lot of effort and energy to find a way to tear a hole in the seal. I don't know why, but Marcus managed to get his hands on this method. The Beast King laughed joyfully. What happened next? You should have guessed. guessed. Of course, with Marcus' sinister personality, he must have used this method to tear open the seal and obtain the power of a false god in order to take revenge on Wu Yin. As a result, the power of a false god leaked out and was obtained by the Beast King. The Beast King, who obtained this secret memory from the power of the false god, found the place where it was sealed. He completely shattered the seal that had been torn apart and absorbed all the power of the false god. With the endless power of the false god, he broke through the level of his own power. In the end, the Beast King became a god. To you, the power of the false god is a disaster, but to me, the power of the false god is the best tonic. The Beast King laughed out loud again. When magical beasts advance to demigod Beast King, they will shed their original body and take on human form. When they advance to deity Beast God, they will also get a chance to transform their body. Therefore, I abandoned the body that had absorbed the power of a false god and turned into a monster. It was not affected in the slightest. Now, I am no longer the Beast King of the past. The former king of beasts declared loudly, I am the new beast god of the Beast Clan. Chapter 1883. Beast God. That was a title only beasts who had ascended to the celestial rank. In the past, there had been a demigod beast king in the behemoth forest who had obtained the power of a god and broken through to become a beast god. However, because the beast god had ruled over the beasts to resist the human gods had joined forces to kill the beast god and beast king who had the power to rule over the beasts. Since then, the behemoth forest had never given birth to another beast king or beast god. It was only now that the beast king, a demigod, had been born. Now, this newly born beast king had become the new beast deity. In terms of numbers, we beasts outnumber the humans by leaps and bounds. In terms of strength, none of us beasts lose to the humans. Now, in terms of combat power, we have me. The beast king's eyes burned with a cruel light. In front of me, who has become the beast god. Even if all 5 of the human demigods were to stand in front of me, it would not take much effort to kill them. This world is destined to fall into my hands. The Beast King raised his eyes and looked at Wu Yin and Violet who were floating in front of him. He extended his hand to them. So, do you want to come with me? Hearing this, Wu Yin and Violet were stunned. Together, Wu Yin looked at the Beast King in shock. Are you trying to recruit us? Don't doubt it. The Beast King's tone was neither sincere nor fake. It was completely calm. Both of you defeated me effortlessly. I can honestly say that among the 5 demigod rank powerhouses in the human world, not a single one of them could do that, but both of you did. No one knows your abilities better than I do. The Beast King's lips slowly curved into a smile. Of course, the most important thing is that neither of you are human, right? Hearing this, Wu Yin and Violet finally understood. The Beast King was recruiting them not because he cherished talent, but because they were not human. Other than the humans and beasts, they were the third force. And now that the Beast King was planning to wage an all-out war with the humans. In order to not increase the strength of the humans, the Beast King wanted to recruit them as a third force. One had to admit that the Beast King was not only very thoughtful, but also very rational. After all, Wu Yin and Violet had almost sent the Beast King to hell. Now, the Beast King chose to give up on revenge for the sake of the big picture, as expected of the King of the Beasts. However, the Beast King had obviously overlooked a problem. Violet aside, Wu Yin was not as magnanimous as the Beast King had imagined. Recruit? Wu Yin sighed and cast his cold eyes on the Beast King. You surrounded my capital of alternate generations with your magical beast army, and even brazenly attacked the barrier, almost injuring my people. Now, you actually want to recruit me. You also know that my magical beast army has surrounded your so-called capital of a different era. The Beast King's expression remained unchanged as he continued to extend his arm. Then, you should also know that if you refuse to stand on the same side as me, I won't mind letting them attack directly, right? Coercion and bribery. Wu Yin let out a sarcastic laugh. Unfortunately, I can't stand being threatened. The Beast King fell silent. I see. The Beast King retracted his arm and nodded. In that case, I don't need to keep you any longer. However, as soon as the Beast King finished his sentence, and before he could make his next move, a pitch-black crack filled with eyeballs appeared behind him. Swish! Immediately afterwards, an extremely dense beam of black light shot out from the pitch-black cracks that were filled with eyeballs. It tore through the air and viciously struck the Beast King's back. The Beast King didn't expect the other party to take the initiative to attack in this situation and was momentarily sluggish. It was during this moment of sluggishness that the beam of black light shot out from the pitch-black crack filled with eyeballs and landed heavily on the Beast King's back. Boom! With a loud, muffled sound, the huge impact exploded on the Beast King's back, causing it to let out a muffled groan. Light smoke rose from its back, and a trace of blood could be faintly seen dripping down from its back. Looking at this scene, the Beast Kings who were about to attack the capital of alternate generations at any time felt as though their roars were choked and stuck in their throats. On the other side, Wien also didn't expect this development. He turned to Purple, who extended her paper fan toward the Beast King. Purple? That's right. The attack just now was launched by Purple on his own initiative. The Beast King slowly raised his head as wisps of smoke rose from his back. Drops of dark red blood dripped from his body as he stared fixedly at Z. His voice was extremely gloomy, as if it had come from the depths of the abyss. It seems like you're tired of living. Along with this sentence, a terrifying aura erupted from the Beast King's body. Violent, murderous aura spread all of a sudden, shrouding the entire place and locking onto Purple. However, under the lock of the aura that even a peak demigod could not compare to, not only did Purple not reveal the slightest bit of panic, but she even smiled very happily. You're injured and... A ruthless glint flashed in the Beast King's eyes. Do you think this little injury can do anything to me? No. I'm praising you. I used all my strength in that attack, just now. Coupled with a sneak attack, you only suffered a little injury, as expected of someone who surpassed the peak of the demigod realm. Purple's gaze seemed to be able to see through all disguises and fixed on the Beast King. But I'm finally certain that you're definitely not a god-level expert, Beast King. When these words came out of Purple's mouth, all the sounds in the world disappeared. Not a god-level expert? Wei-Yan's eyes lit up. Although he didn't know why Violet said this, it wasn't impossible since Violet said so. Ha ha ha! The Beast King's lips curled into a smile, and it grew bigger and bigger until it was so big that it made him laugh wildly. I thought you were going to say something. Is this all you want to say? That's right. In the face of the Beast King's terrifying laughter, Purple's expression was surprisingly calm. I'm thinking if a god-level expert were to receive an all-out attack from me, would he be injured? The Beast King's laughter came to an abrupt halt, and his expression darkened. Just because I was injured by your attack, I'm not a god-level expert. You don't have to continue bluffing. Purple ignored the Beast King's gloomy expression, and a smile slowly appeared on his face. To tell you the truth, both Little Yin and I have an ability that allows us to sense the strength of others. The ability to sense the strength of others? Purple must be talking about the system's perception, right? This perception ability can determine a person's current strength in detail, and it can differentiate them by 10 levels per level. Purple met the Beast King's gaze. Level 0 to 9 is the first level, level 10 to 19 is the second level, level 20 to 29 is the third level, and so on. Level 80 to 89 is the ninth level, level 90 to 99 is the demigod realm, and level 100 is the demigod realm. But with this perception ability, your level is a series of question marks, and you don't even have a specific level. Don't you think that's strange? Purple raised the paper fan in his hand and pointed it at the Beast King. After all, if you were a divine-level expert, then my sensory ability should have shown your level, which is level 100, but the result was a series of question marks. Then, you claimed that you were a divine-level expert. So from then on, I started to suspect that you weren't a divine-level expert. Hearing Purple's words, Wu Yin came to a realization. Isn't that right? Since the Beast King is a god-level expert, then the system's perception should show him a level of 100. Why is there a series of question marks? You said that the four gods used the fragments of the mythical armament to research and create a substitute for the power of the gods, which is the black light, the power of the false gods. Purple smiled confidently. So, I wondered if you're actually a false divine, surpassing the peak of demigod, but not a god-level expert. Chapter 1884. He surpassed the peak of demigod, but failed to reach celestial rank. That's why he's a false god. That's why the system perception displayed a series of question marks. If the Beast King is really a fake god, then everything makes sense. The Beast King's expression turned uglier every time Violet mentioned her conjecture. When she mentioned the fake god, the Beast King's expression turned uglier. Yukari's smile widened when she saw the Beast King's ugly expression. Looks like I was right, Wu Yin smiled. How strong is a celestial rank? Currently, no one should be able to answer this question. However, the difference between the ranks was huge, and the higher the rank, the greater the difference between the ranks. As the pinnacle of level 100 god tier, it's easy to imagine how much stronger it is compared to a demigod. At the very least, Wu Yin doesn't think he and Yukari, who aren't even at the pinnacle of demigods, can challenge a pinnacle god tier. That's why Wu Yin decided to stall for time with Yukari. Chuju, Mikoto, Ikaros, Astria, and the others will retreat with the girls and Misaka's sisters. He and Yukari will think of a way to escape. If the Beast King isn't a celestial rank, but a false god, they might be able to find an opening and defeat the Beast King. It's a pity that Wu Yan's hopes are a little too high. The Beast King took a deep breath. His ugly expression slowly returned to normal. It didn't take long for him to return to his initial indifference. I have to say, Yakumo Yukari, you really are an outstanding fighter in all aspects. You're right, I haven't reached celestial rank yet, the Beast King said coldly. That's just a byproduct of coincidental research. Even if it can increase the user's power, it can't break through the limits of life and reach celestial rank. No matter how much I absorb, I can only surpass the peak of demigod rank. I can't reach celestial rank. In your words, I should be a false god. The Beast King sneered. But so what? Don't tell me that the two of you, who aren't even demigods, can defeat me, who has surpassed demigods. Impossible with just the two of us? Violet smiled calmly. What if it's not just the two of us? The Beast King was slightly taken aback. Wu Yin was also a little surprised that Violet would say such a thing. Could it be that there was another demigod on his side? Little Yin, Violet whispered to Wu Yin before the Beast King could say anything. Do you still remember the 5 gems I gave you when you summoned me? I went to the Behemoth Forest to investigate the power of the false gods. Wu Yin paused for a moment before he remembered. With a flip of his hand, 5 gems of different colors appeared in his palm. They were the gems that Violet gave to Wu Yin the day after he summoned her to the Spalier world. The next day, Violet went to the Behemoth Forest to investigate the ominous aura she sensed. She ended up encountering the power of the false gods. After explaining the situation to Violet, she tossed the gems to Wu Yin. At that time, Violet even told him that if he couldn't defeat his opponent in a fight, he could show off the gems. Perhaps he could scare his opponent away. However, Violet's expression was too casual at that time. It was as if she didn't care about the gems at all. Wu Yin didn't see anything special about the gems and gradually forgot about them. Violet didn't bother explaining to Wu Yin. With a wave of her hand, the gems in Wu Yan's palm exploded into powder with a bang. Buzz! Just as the 5 different colored gems exploded into powder, 5 ripples of the same color as the gems spread out in the sky like a door. The door gradually solidified, like a reflection in a lake, swaying in an illusory manner. At a certain moment, with a crack, it opened at the same time like a real door. Then, 5 figures slowly descended from the 5 doors. They were an old man in a gray robe, a man in a white robe with a thunderbolt pattern on his chest, an old man in a black robe, a gorgeous woman, and a beautiful girl in a blue gauze dress. The 5 figures emerged from the doors in the sky and slowly descended. They didn't stop until they reached Violet's side and raised their heads. Looking at the 5 figures descending from the sky, the Beast King's face broke into a terrifying smile. Helpers? Wu Yin cried out in surprise. 3 guardian deities? Among the 5 people that appeared out of nowhere, there was an old man in a gray robe, a man in a white robe with a lightning emblem, and a beautiful woman. They were the 3 guardians of the Ailu, Bruba, and Fea empires, Jaren, Magnubi, and Linya. Not only Garen, Magnubi, and Linya, Wu Yin also had an impression of the old man in the black robe. One could imagine the shock on his face. Isn't he the owner of the magic crystal shop in the academy? This is the 4th demigod of Silveria, Mula. He met Wu Yin Zi in the academy once before, the 4th demigod of Silveria. As for the beautiful girl, Wu Yin didn't recognize her, but he was also surprised. She looks like she's only 20 years old. She's just too young. This young girl is the 5th demigod in the Spalier world, Cynthia. At this moment, the 5 demigods in the Spalier world are gathered in one place. As soon as they appeared, apart from the young girl named Cynthia, the other 4 demigod rank powerhouses all turned their gazes towards the Beast King, their eyes releasing shocking anger and killing intent. You're the Beast King, right? Jarlin suppressed his anger as his voice echoed. You're the one who ordered the demonic beast to attack my Ailu Empire? You're the one who caused my Ailu Empire to fall into an abyss of suffering? So the Ailu Empire was also attacked by demonic beasts. Magnubi clenched his fists. His voice was filled with anger. My Baruba Empire was also attacked by demonic beasts. Even the Imperial Palace has collapsed. It's not just the Ailu and Baruba empires. Linya's expression was cold. The Fea Empire was also attacked by demonic beasts. Even the Emperor is leading his men to fight. Is it you? Mullah roared as a terrifying fighting chi burst out from his body. Are you the one who ordered the beast to attack the Spalier World Academy and almost destroyed it? Cynthia wasn't as furious as the other 4 demigods, but her eyes were cold as she looked at the Beast King. Ha 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 ha! The Beast King was neither afraid nor panicked in the face of the 5 demigods attacking him at the same time. Instead, he burst into unbridled laughter. 5 human demigod rank powerhouses, you've come at the right time. Saves me the trouble of finding you all personally and killing all of you. What did you say? Not to mention the 4 demigod rank experts. Even Cynthia had a trace of anger on her face when she heard that. Dealing with 5 demigod rank powerhouses? Alone? No matter how one looked at it, it seemed like he was spouting nonsense. However, Violet knew that the Beast King wasn't just boasting. All of you better be careful, Violet said calmly. He's no longer the Beast King who just entered demigod rank. He's now beyond peak demigod rank and has touched the divine rank. He's an unprecedented false god rank powerhouse. False god rank powerhouse. Even the 5 demigods hadn't heard of this term before. Of course, not knowing what a false god rank powerhouse was didn't mean that they didn't know what it meant to surpass peak demigod rank. The 5 demigods sucked in a breath of cold air at the same time. Surpass peak demigod rank? Cynthia looked at the Beast King in shock. He surpassed peak demigod rank? Impossible, Mullah exclaimed. He was just a demigod rank Beast King not long ago. How can he surpass peak demigod rank now? But Linya looked at the Beast King with a serious expression. His aura has indeed surpassed peak demigod rank. False god rank. Magnubi's face was filled with bewilderment. What rank is that? Does such a rank exist? Everyone in the Spalier world knew that beyond peak demigod rank was the divine rank. There was no such thing as a false god rank powerhouse. If the Beast King didn't use the power of a false god, the false god rank wouldn't have appeared. Therefore, the Beast King was the only one who had reached the false god realm since ancient times. It was no wonder that the 5 demigod powerhouses were so surprised and bewildered. It's a bit troublesome to explain it. I'll explain it to you later. Violet looked at the 5 demigods. The 5 of you. Do you still remember our agreement? Of course. Jarla nodded. That time in the Behemoth Forest, we promised that as long as you give us the black light, we'll do one thing for you as long as it's within our power. We'll use the gemstone that can summon us from a distance as proof. All right, Violet said loudly. Then the 5 of you, join forces with me to fight the Beast King. Hearing this, the 5 demigods nodded without hesitation. Fight the Beast King? Even without the agreement with Violet, the 5 demigods wouldn't let the Beast King go. R1152. Chapter 1885. Level 96. Level 95. Level 95. Mura. Level 94. Cynthia. Level 94. Wuyen looked at the 5 demigods who were standing in a row against the Beast King. He exhaled a breath of hot air. Why was the boss of the magic crystal shop in the Spalier World Academy a demigod? How could a young girl who looked less than 20 years old be a demigod rank expert? Why did Yukari know these 5 demigods? Why would a special tool that could summon 5 demigod powerhouses be in Violet's hands? And through Violet's hands, it was given to him. Wuyen had so many questions, but he couldn't ask them. It wasn't the right time. However, with the help of the 5 demigods from the Spalier world, Wuyen's situation was much better. Yukari, who was hovering beside Wuyen, lowered her voice and spoke again. Little Yin, you should have some kind of telepathy magic that can allow the 7 of us to communicate telepathically, right? Wuyen paused for a moment. He nodded. It's not difficult to converse with one's mind, and it's quite simple to use. It doesn't even take much time. I can cast it now. Very good. Yukari raised her head and looked at the Beast King. Little Yin, help us to communicate telepathically. I have a plan. After a while, under the Beast King's gaze, Wu Yin turned around and landed in the capital of alternate generations. Seeing this, the Beast King frowned. The 5 demigod from the Spalier world didn't know that Wu Yin could use the power of a demigod. However, the Beast King knew, in the Beast King's opinion, the other party should have gathered the power of all the demigods to deal with him. With 7 demigods working together, the chances of winning would be much higher. If there was one less demigod, if that happened, their chances of winning would drop by a few percentage points. Now, why did you ask one of them to leave? While the Beast King frowned in confusion, Wu Yin stopped above the capital of a different era and didn't continue to descend. However, they didn't charge forward. Instead, they remained where they were, surveying the surrounding flying magical beasts. Seeing this, the Beast King understood. It turned out that those demigod powerhouses were worried that the surrounding magical beasts would suddenly launch a sneak attack while they were fighting, which would affect the battle. That was why they had one of them stay on guard at the side. Are you worried that I'll let the magical beasts around me attack you? The Beast King smiled disdainfully. Don't worry. I alone am enough to deal with all of you. Upon hearing the Beast King's words, the 5 demigod powerhouses of the Spalier world didn't respond. Instead, they gazed at the Beast King coldly. Dense battle aura and magical powers rose from their bodies, stirring up turbulent winds that swept in all directions. The disdain on the Beast King's face intensified. Around him, twisted magical powers that were violent, cold, and filled with rich negative energy surged wildly like a rotten aura. Upon sensing the dark and powerful magical powers from the Beast King, the 5 demigod powerhouses of the Spalier world grimaced. Then, they exchanged looks and nodded in unison. Swish! At the next moment, apart from Z, Linya, and Cynthia, Garen, Magnubi, and Mura transformed into razor-sharp arrows that shot toward the Beast King at their maximum speed. The Beast King swept a glance at the 3 demigod powerhouses from the corner of his eyes and let out a sneer. He extended his palm gradually, and the dark magical powers around him gathered and coalesced into an enormous black blade. The Beast King suddenly opened his eyes as he gripped the black blade. A vicious look that only magical beasts would possess flashed through his eyes. Soon after, the black blade in the Beast King's hand turned into a black blur. With a sonic boom, it cut through the air like a black windmill. With the Beast King as the center, it viciously slashed through the surroundings. Almost at the same time, Garen, Magnubi, and Mura, who were charging towards the Beast King, suddenly sped up and rushed in front of the Beast King. However, before they could attack, they were met with a windmill slash. Immediately, Garen, Magnubi, and Mura were shocked. The Beast King had actually seen through the trio's intention to speed up midway, and had taken the initiative to attack them. In this situation, it seemed as though Garen, Magnubi, and Mura were the ones who collided with the Beast King's attack. How could they not be astonished? But now wasn't the time to be astonished. Sensing the powerful wind coming towards them, Garen, Magnubi, and Mura hurriedly raised their hands. An ancient knight sword appeared in Garen's hand. A pair of razor-sharp claws appeared in Magnubi's hand, and a pitch-black stick appeared in Mura's hand. The three unknown weapons stood before Garen, Magnubi, and Mura and welcomed the Beast King's attack. Clink! The black blade that the Beast King had turned into a black windmill swung in front of the Beast King. Wherever it passed, sparks flew in all directions like fireworks, and a crisp sound of collision rang out. Garen, Magnubi, and Mura felt a great, violent force coming from their weapons, which hurt their perlicues and almost knocked their weapons out of their hands. However, before Garen, Magnubi, and Mura could heave a sigh of relief, the Beast King sneered again. The black blade that he had just swung was pulled back according to the trajectory of the swing. Once again, the wind will spun in the opposite direction and slashed the weapons in Garen, Magnubi, and Mura's hands. Clang! Garen, Magnubi, and Mura groaned in pain as they were sent flying with their weapons at even faster speed than when they came in. Buzz! Garen, Magnubi, and Mula were just sent flying. Before they were 3 meters away from the Orc King, a pitch-black crack filled with ferocious eyeballs appeared between the Orc King and Garen, Magnubi, and Mula, who were sent flying. In the dark crevice, Z was like a loaded arrow. Demonic power that the Beast King could not identify surged around him. He flew out of the dark crevice, and his body turned into a blurry shadow. In the blink of an eye, he was right in front of the Beast King. This time, it was the Beast King's turn to be astonished. If the Beast King had predicted that Garen, Magnubi, and Mura would speed up and rush to his front and launched an attack in advance, it would look like that Garen, Magnubi, and Mura had bumped into him. Wasn't the current situation the same? Purple seemed to have predicted that the Beast King would send Garen, Magnubi, and Mura flying. Almost at the instant when Garen, Magnubi, and Mura were sent flying, she opened up a gap between the Beast King, Garen, Magnubi, and Mura. In the end, it was as though the Beast King had sent Garen, Magnubi, and Mura flying in order for Purple to appear here. Of course, even though he was astonished, the Beast King's expression turned cold at the sight of Purple dashing toward him. He brandished the black blade in his hand and couldn't retract it. All he could do was to raise his massive fist and clench it tightly. Twisting his elbow, the Beast King's dark mana rapidly gathered on his fist. Just like that, the Beast King viciously smashed his fist towards Violet, who was charging towards him at lightning speed. Z's expression didn't change. He suddenly stretched out his hand. Above his hand, a majestic, demonic energy rapidly spread out and collided with the Beast King's fist. Boom! In the instant that a low, muffled sound rang out, an inexplicable wave surged from Yukari's hand, disintegrating the chi and dark magic on the Beast King's fist. Such a familiar, domineering, and almost unreasonable method of disintegrating without the Beast King's consent reminded him of this move that made him suffer greatly in the past. That was the realm of being and non-being. You're indeed full of strange tricks. The power of your realm is really strong. Yakumo Z, I'm looking forward to seeing more of you. The Beast King snorted. However, such a small trick is no longer of much practical use to the current me. Show me what you're really capable of. As soon as he finished speaking, The dark magic surging on the Beast King's body suddenly twisted and formed a black fog. It descended and enveloped Violet's body. Chapter 1886. Whoosh! The black fog that suddenly descended from the sky caused Z to be slightly surprised. She lifted her head, and soon after, the thick black fog was like a gust of wind that rapidly magnified in Z's gem-like eyes. The black mist carried an extremely gloomy aura, and the curse-like power made Violet, who was used to seeing all kinds of powers, frown. She staggered, tapped her foot, and retreated like a bolt of lightning. Swish! However, just as Purple's figure turned, the thick black fog was like a sharp arrow that instantly flashed and arrived before him. Seeing that the black fog that contained a dark aura was about to hit Purple like a tide, Purple's face turned solemn. He forcefully pointed the paper fan in his hand forward, and a crack suddenly appeared in front of Purple. It stood in front of Purple like a shield. The black mist containing a gloomy aura rushed into the gap without slowing down. It was unknown where it was transferred to, but it disappeared in front of Violet's eyes. However, the solemn expression on Violet's face didn't weaken at all. Instead, it became more intense. That was because Violet clearly felt it. Amidst an extremely soft sound of something breaking through the air, a figure silently appeared behind her. Didn't I tell you? Staring at Violet's slender and tall figure, the Beast King raised one of his hands. Above his palm, a poisonous black mist condensed and covered the Beast King's palm. Show me what you're capable of. As these words were spoken, Yi Zichen's eyes lit up. The Beast King's palm, which was shrouded in black mist, viciously smashed towards Z's back. Looking at the violent vibrations in the air, even if it was Z, he would definitely be gravely injured by such an attack. Swish! Just as the Beast King's palm, which was covered in black fog, was about to smash down on Violet, a faint sound of impact suddenly rang out. Buzz! Purple, whose back was facing the Beast King, suddenly trembled slightly. His figure actually trembled after this tremble. After the trembling, her figure became illusory. Boom! The Beast King's violent blow landed solidly on Violet's back. However, this blow was like hitting a rock. It penetrated Violet's body without a single drop of blood. Then, his body was like a shattered piece of glass. Slowly it shattered. Moreover, there were still ice shards falling from the sky. That figure was just a block of ice. Ice? The Beast King was slightly startled. Then, as if sensing something, he forcefully turned his head to look behind him. There, a beautiful girl in a blue gauze dress was holding up a staff that was blooming with rich magic power, and an icy blue mist was surging around her. Cynthia, that piece of ice was made by Cynthia. That girl may be very young, but she has a very unique magic, a cold voice echoed in front of the Beast King. As long as she can create ice, that girl can teleport the ice she creates to any place in an instant. If necessary, she can even swap places with other things, even if that thing is a human. The moment he finished speaking, a burly figure appeared in front of the Beast King. Taking a closer look, this burly figure had rushed out from the gap that Violet had left behind to divert the black fog. Roar! Then, a huge beast shadow appeared behind the burly figure. Its entire body was wrapped in lightning, and it roared towards the sky. It was a beast battle technique unique to the Baruba Empire. As for Magnubi's beast battle skill, it was even more special. It was a beast battle skill that contained the power of lightning. Magnubi rushed to the front of the Beast King and bent one of his hands into the shape of a claw. The claw-like armament in his hand surged with a majestic aura. Magnubi fiercely swung the claw and compressed the air in front of him into a ball, blasting the Beast King. Boom! Amidst the low, muffled explosion, the ripples of air waves rapidly spread out, causing the space to tremble slightly. However, such a violent attack did not directly land on the Beast King. Instead, it smashed into a bone wall that had appeared in front of the Beast King out of nowhere and smashed the bone wall into pieces. Playing tricks all you want. Behind the bone wall, the Beast King shook his palm abruptly. In an instant, black fog surged out and transformed into 3 arm-thick black snakes. They circled around the bone wall and darted out abruptly. Their hideous mouths snarled silently, filling the air with a foul stench. The black snake instantly shot forward and circled around the bone wall. It rushed towards Magnubi, who had clawed at the bone wall from the top, left, and right, and surrounded him. Magnubi's expression became incomparably solemn when he sensed the faint, dark, demonic energy being transmitted from the 3 black snakes. He slowly spread out his claws and violently swung them at the black snakes that were shooting over. Roar! As Magnubi swung his claws, the beast shadow behind Magnubi roared violently. It raised its huge claws and crushed the space in front of it as if it was squeezing it into a ball, then smashed it down heavily. Boom! Just as he passed by, the 3 black snakes that were circling around him were immediately crushed into a cloud of black mist under this earth-shattering claw, just like the space around him. Buzz! At the same time, after Magnubi dealt with the 3 black snakes, the space around the Beast King trembled abruptly. 2 gaps split open and spat out 2 figures as though something was being spat out. Hiya! Garen and Mura darted to the sides of the Beast King like loaded bullets. They brandished their simple, unadorned knight's sword and pitch-black long stick in a crescent arc and smashed at the Beast King's head. Oomph! Facing the merciless attack, the Beast King snorted in disdain. With a move of his palm, a surge of black mist gushed out from his body. After a wave of rolling, it actually condensed into a sticky barrier around the Beast King like a swamp. Boom! Garen's slash and Mura's blunt blow smashed into the thick, viscous protective barrier in a deep explosion. 2 ripples spread across the pitch-black, viscous protective barrier. The 2 armaments that were considered top-notch, even among gold-grade armaments, contained a terrifying force. The knight's sword and staff smashed a dent into the viscous black barrier. However, they were unable to break through this layer of defense. They stopped half a meter away from the Beast King's head. The strength and combat aura of the 2 armaments were completely dissolved by the mysterious power of the viscous barrier. Boom! Immediately after, the viscous barrier that had 2 dents on it fiercely bounced back and knocked away the armaments in Garland and Mura's hands. Roar! As if it had been planned, when Jarlin and Mura were sent flying, Magnubi bypassed the bone wall with his beast shadow. He flashed into the arms of the Beast King and waved his sharp claws. Streaks of claw shadows appeared and smashed towards the chest of the Beast King with violent electric arcs. Facing this attack, the Beast King remained disdainful, but he didn't completely ignore it. Got to say, the strength of lightning was indeed a kind of strength that contained righteousness and had a certain restraining effect on some evil beings. Coincidentally, the pseudo-god's strength in the Beast King's body was one of such evil beings. Therefore, the Beast King couldn't ignore the claws that were wrapped in electric arcs. Bone armor. Immediately after, the dark magic power around the Beast Monarch surged like lightning. As the black chi surged, the Beast Monarch's body also trembled, and a suit of armor completely made of bones was formed around the Beast Monarch's body. Clang, clang, clang. The claw shadows that carried traces of electric arcs all smashed onto the thick and heavy bone armor. Waves of metal clashing, sounds reverberated in the air like vibrating ripples. The defensive power of the bone armor was obviously very strong as well. Under Magnubi's full power and storm-like attacks, there wasn't even the slightest crack on it. Of course, there wasn't a single crack on the bone armor. However, even though the bone armor had absorbed most of the impact, the remaining force from Magnubi's claws still forced the Beast King back. As a result, everyone could see that the Beast King's body was pushed back by the force exerted by Magnubi's claw attack. Clang, clang, clang. On the other hand, Magnubi continued to drive the Do Chi in his body. Along with the huge beast shadow, he continuously swung his claws, causing the clear sound of metal clashing to reverberate in the sky. Chapter 1887. Clang. Another claw attack that contained the power of thunder and lightning smashed heavily on the Beast King's bone armor. Gotcha! Finally, after blocking an unknown number of claws, the Beast King's bone armor finally cracked with a crisp cracking sound. A huge crack appeared on the surface of the armor. Originally, the Beast King had only used this bone armor because he thought that his power of the pseudo-god would be slightly restrained by the power of the lightning. However, one must not forget that the lightning power contained in Magnubi's beast battle skill was just a bonus. After all, it was a beast battle skill that was famous for its strength. After receiving so many attacks, even if the Beast King was a pseudo-god who had surpassed the peak of the demigod stage, it was impossible for his bone armor to not shatter. Judging from this situation, the bone armor would shatter completely after another 2 or 3 claw attacks. But it was a pity that even if Magnubi was aware of this, as the creator of the bone armor, the Beast King would definitely be aware of it. Boom! Before Magnubi could rejoice over the cracking of the bone armor, a surge of dense, dark magical power erupted from the Beast King's body. The dark magical power erupted like a violent storm and instantly transformed into a substantial impact that forced Magnubi back a few steps. Go to hell! Before Magnubi could react, the Beast King's deep and cold voice rang in his ears. His body was sent flying backward, and before he could react, the Beast King's cold voice rang in his ears. The instant the Beast King's voice sounded, Magnubi sensed it too. Above his head, a terrifying force was forming. Magnubi immediately lifted his head and looked above him. When he saw the scene above him clearly, his expression changed. Not far above Magnubi's head, a huge bone spear that was as long as 10 meters and as thick as a pillar appeared abruptly. Amidst the chaotic hissing sound in the air, it landed heavily on the ground. Wind of dissolution. Just as the huge bone spear descended from the sky and was about to land on Magnubi's body, a clear and delicate shout rang out. Swish! A sharp sound of something breaking through the air echoed abruptly, accompanied by a violent, sharp tornado that swept across the sky. It shot into the sky. It crashed heavily into the huge bone spear that was descending from the sky. Boom! A thunderous explosion resounded through the sky. The surging wind spread out like an impact, and the huge bone spear was directly entangled by the sharp tornado. Then, as if it had melted, it was broken down into magic residue and dissipated into the air. The Beast King was slightly taken aback when he saw that his attack was so easily neutralized. Then he saw it. Next to Cynthia, who had been holding her staff, Linya was also floating in the air. She was also holding a staff in her hand. Not only was the staff wrapped in magic power, but there were also traces of golden wind swirling around it. Dissolving wind. Only the direct descendants of the Fea Empire's royal family could learn this inherited magic. It had the effect of nullifying all energy attacks, including the bone spear made of magic. In order to deal with this move, one had to attack with pure physical strength. Otherwise, no matter if it was combat aura, magic power, or battle techniques and spells made of combat aura and magic power, they would all be melted. Back then, Prince Kaya of the Fea Empire used this move against Wei Yin in the academy. Gotta say, this was indeed a magical spell. If Linya cast it, even the Beast King's attack would be nullified. Of course, Cynthia had a spell that could move ice to any position and even exchange it with others. Linya had a spell that could dissolve any energy attacks. Magnubi also had a beast battle technique that contained the power of lightning. The other 2 demigod stage beings also had equally powerful trump cards. However, compared to Cynthia, Linya, and Magnubi, Garen and Mura's trump cards didn't have any magical effects. They only had pure offensive strength. Raging Wave Sword Dance. Black Flame Duel. 2 silhouettes suddenly flashed to the sides of the Beast King. The knight's sword and the long staff in their hand were wrapped in a dense fog of fighting aura. In the blink of an eye, the knight's sword in Jarlin's hand was surrounded by rolling combat chi. The combat chi combined with the sword's body and turned into a powerful sword mark. Like a bolt of lightning, it shot towards the Beast King. At the same time, the staff burned with pitch-black flames that made it look even darker. Mura hurled the staff, and it streaked across the air toward the Beast King. In the face of such a powerful sneak attack, the Beast King's face also showed traces of anger. Its body trembled, and an overwhelming amount of black fog immediately surged out from its body. It was like a pool of sewage covering the Beast King's body. The sword marks and pitch-black staff penetrated the black mist around the Beast King like a hot knife through butter. The power contained in the sword marks caused the black mist to fluctuate violently like layers of clouds. Not bad. The Beast King let out a sneer. But not good enough. The black mist surging from the Beast King's body immediately boiled like boiling water. It suddenly expanded, causing the sword marks and pitch-black fire sticks that were about to pass through the black mist and shoot towards the Beast King's body to be locked in place. They directly froze and solidified within the black mist. Jaren and Mula's expressions changed drastically when they saw that their most powerful attack was easily neutralized by the Beast King. However, Garen and Mura weren't even in the peak demigod stage. The gap between them and the Beast King, who had entered the pseudo-god stage, was too huge. Swish! Suddenly, a sound that sounded like a wild gust of wind was emitted from the black fog, while Jaren and Mu-La's expressions changed drastically. Immediately, the edge of the black fog surged and directly charged out. It heavily collided with Jaren and Mu-La, who were unable to dodge in time. Boom! Oomph! Jarlin and Mula let out a muffled groan as their bodies were sent flying backward at the same time. Die! The Beast King didn't show any mercy at all. Ignoring the fact that Jaren and Mura were still flying backward, he formed 2 pitch-black bone spears with his dark magic power and shot them toward Jaren and Mura. The bone spears were terrifyingly fast. Garen and Mura had just been struck, and they could only watch helplessly as the bone spears flew toward them. Wind of dissolution. Heavenly chill. At this moment, 2 similarly cold and crisp cries resounded. As the 2 bone spears were about to hit Garen and Mura, a rotating tornado and a faint, invisible impact swept across from afar. One of the tornadoes wrapped around the bone spear that was launched at Garen while the other struck Mura. Chi! Then, in the sound of something being corroded, the bone spear that was wrapped around by the tornado melted instantly. On the other hand, Mura, who was struck by the invisible impact, vanished and was replaced by a huge block of dry ice. Boom! The remaining bone spear directly smashed the huge dry ice into pieces, exploding into ice shards that filled the sky. On the other hand, Mura appeared beside the Beast King abruptly. She disregarded the pain in her body and grabbed one of the Beast King's hands. Caught you. Hearing this, the Beast King did not have time to react. Garland, who had stopped his flying backwards, dashed to the other side of the Beast King and reached out his hand, grabbing the other hand of the Beast King tightly. I caught you too. You're asking for it. The Beast King was infuriated. Just as he was about to deal a heavy blow to Garen and Mura, another burly figure appeared behind him along with an enormous beast shadow. It was none other than Magnubi. Roar! The beast shadow behind Magnubi roared as it directly stretched out its 2 huge palms and tightly grasped the Beast King, Jarlin and Mura in its illusory palms. Under the restraint of the beast shadow, the Beast King, who couldn't move his hands earlier, couldn't even move his body anymore. At this moment, the corners of Magnubi's mouth curled up. I caught you too, human. The Beast King finally revealed an unconcealable rage and murderous aura. The dark magical powers around him surged. At the same time, the familiar, mysterious tornado descended from the sky, passed through the beast shadow's palm, and drilled into it like a viscous liquid, covering the Beast King's body. Chi! In an instant, the dark magical powers around the Beast King dissolved entirely. Chapter 1888. TSK. TSK. Amidst the sizzling noises, the magic power on the Beast King's body was completely melted by the wind of dissolution and dissipated into nothingness. In order to deal with the wind of dissolution, one had to resist it with pure physical strength. However, the Beast King's body was also restrained by Garin, Mura, and Magnubi. In other words, in this state, the Beast King could not move at all, and there was nothing he could do. However, the Beast King wasn't worried at all. Comparing physical strength, magical beasts were stronger than humans, not to mention the Beast King. Even if he was bound by Garin, Mula, and Magnubi, he would definitely be able to break free if he put in some effort. When that happened, the Beast King could also dissolve the wind of dissolution on him. Garin, Mura, Linya, and Magnubi's joint restraint only brought some trouble to the Beast King and wasn't a threat to him at all. At this thought, the Beast King forgot about it. Garin, Mura, Linya, and Magnubi weren't the only ones present. In the distance, Linya nodded to Cynthia as she watched the Beast King's hands being tightly grabbed by Garin and Mula. His body was also bound by Magnubi's beast shadow and surrounded by a tornado that was dissolving magic power. Cynthia responded instantly and raised her staff. At the next moment, everyone on the scene, including the Beast King, was replaced by blocks of ice and vanished from the scene. The Beast King felt his vision blurring. When his vision recovered, the scene that appeared before him left him dumbfounded. This was a platform at the edge of the capital of alternate generations. Above the platform stood an ancient tree that was 10 meters tall and had an extremely thick canopy that covered the entire platform. It emanated an aura of vicissitudes and emanated a gentle, green radiance all over its body. If the guardians of the Emperor Island were here, they would definitely be astonished to see this ancient tree. This was because apart from its size, this ancient tree was identical to the guardian tree on the Emperor Island. Not only that, but its aura, energy waves, and appearance were also exactly the same. It was none other than the sapling of the guardian divine tree that Wu Yin had brought back from the land of God. Next to the guardian tree's sapling, Wu Yin placed his hand on it and injected traces of mana into it. Seeing Wu Yin here, the Beast King's expression changed slightly. Wasn't Wu Yin on guard against his magical beast army? Why was he here? Of course, there wasn't enough time to answer the Beast King's question. Under the infusion of Wu Yan's mana, the guardian tree sapling kept blooming with a soft green light. The green light distorted the space in front of the guardian tree sapling and tore it apart, forming a huge spatial vortex. Looking at the spatial vortex, the Beast King was shocked. Opening up space. Yes. The sapling of the guardian tree itself had the ability to open up space. And now, Wu Yin was using this ability of the guardian tree to open up a huge space. However, as the guardian tree was still young and not as powerful as the guardian tree on the Emperor Island, it could only open up a small space the size of a room. However, this space was more than enough for him. Huh! Magnubi yelled. The beast figure behind him roared and lifted the Beast King's hand above its head. Then, it threw the Beast King forcefully into the huge space opened up by the guardian tree sapling. Immediately, the Beast King, Jarlin, and Mura were thrown into the space vortex in front of the sapling as if they were pebbles. Subconsciously, the Beast King had an ominous premonition, which made him want to get away from the space vortex. However, before the Beast King could move, Jaren and Mura, who were holding the Beast King tightly, suddenly kicked the Beast King's back heavily as if they had planned it beforehand. Boom! To the Beast King, this kick was no different from not being kicked at all. It did not cause any damage to the Beast King. However, the Beast King was kicked into the spatial whirlpool, while Garin and Mura used the Beast King's back as a springboard to jump out of the spatial whirlpool. Linya and Cynthia yelled at Wu Yin when they saw Jaren and Mula jumping out of the vortex. Now, Wu Yin loosened his grip on the guardian tree, sapling without hesitation. Buzz! After the supply of mana was cut off, the sapling of the guardian divine tree trembled, and the gentle green light that it was emitting gradually dimmed. At the same time, the spatial vortex that had been opened up gradually closed. The Beast King finally understood what was going on. "You're trying to lock me up in this huge space." The Beast King sneered. "Do you think that a tiny space can trap me?" After saying that, the Beast King raised his fist, intending to shatter the space. It wasn't difficult for the Beast King to do so with his current strength. The instant the Beast King raised his fist, Wu Yan's indifferent voice sounded in his ears from outside the spatial vortex. "Of course, a tiny space can't trap you. But not only do we want to lock you up, but we also want to seal you up." As soon as he said that, a power that didn't belong to the Beast King's body started to take effect. Buzz! With the sound of space trembling, the Beast King's body suddenly burst out with a dazzling light, causing the Beast King's fist to stop in its tracks. Then, 5 translucent, crystal-like beads the size of a palm flew out from the Beast King's body. They emitted a strong light as they circled around the Beast King, circling it. "What's that?" The Beast King's pupils shrunk. "Why are these things on me?" Huh? Perhaps in response to the Beast King's words, the radiance emanating from the 5 translucent beads intensified until it fluctuated all of a sudden. Clink! Along with the crisp sound of wind chimes, 5 translucent white chains suddenly shot out from the 5 translucent beads at an extremely fast speed, so fast that even the Beast King could not react in time. In addition to the fact that the distance between them was extremely close, the 5 translucent white chains suddenly wound around the Beast King's body, then contracted and tightly bound the Beast King. No, they didn't just bind him. The Beast King could clearly feel that when the 5 chains bound him, the power of the false god in his body was like an extinguished flame, like stagnant water that had lost its vitality. There was no way for it to circulate anymore. Impossible. The Beast King couldn't help but yell. How can there be something in this world that can completely silence the pseudo-god powers? Nothing is impossible. Outside the space vortex, Wu Yin smiled. That's because the 5 beads were created by the 4 gods to deal with the so-called power of the fake gods. They were left for us to seal the power of the fake gods again. Impossible. The Beast King yelled again. Ordinary means can't seal the pseudo-god powers at all. Otherwise, the 4 gods wouldn't have had to use their own bodies to seal the pseudo-god powers. In the end, they turned their bodies into seals to suppress the pseudo-god powers. You're right. The pseudo-god powers can't be sealed by ordinary means. Violet walked out a crack in the air and came to Wu Yan's side. She raised her eyes and looked at the Beast King. "When I first heard that these 5 beads could seal the power of the false god, I had my suspicions. But now, it seems that these 5 beads can indeed suppress the power of the false god. So, I guess that these 5 beads should be made from the fragments of the mythical armament." After hearing Violet's explanation, the Beast King understood. The mythical armament was a divine object that could create the power of divinity on its own. It could also store the power of divinity. Therefore, if these 5 beads were made from the fragments of the mythical armament, it would not be strange for them to be able to suppress the power of false gods. It was precisely because of these tools that the Beast King could miraculously do what he thought was impossible. Realizing this, the Beast King finally understood something. He glared at Wu Yin, Violet, and the 5 demigods of the Spalier world outside the space vortex, and roared for the first time since he appeared. "You tricked me." R1152. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.